I, the super rich crown prince, will build the richest country. Please like, share and subscribe. Episode 51. Earning billions of dollars in agency fees, the beginning of a pharmaceutical powerhouse. When the chaebols in South Korea heard that there was such a thing, they could still be agents for 10 years. Their eyes instantly turned red. Shit, grab it, no matter how much money it costs, we must win the bidding right. A South Korean chaebol's eyes turned red after listening to his subordinate's report. In terms of wealth, the South Korean chaebols may not be as rich as those in the island countries, but in terms of madness, the island countries' chaebols are still not as crazy as South Korea. After receiving the instructions from the boss, the representatives on the scene were more confident in bidding. The price rose. After a while, it reached $1 billion. This price has already deterred many people. Those who stayed to continue bidding were all big chaebols. Or they held Fortune 500 companies. 1.03 billion. 1.18 billion, 1.25 billion, 1.32 billion US dollars. The further it went, the fewer people responded. Seeing that the island chaebols didn't even blink, several chaebols from South Korea got anxious. They wanted to join forces to bid. However, facing the powerful island chaebols, the South Korean chaebols eventually lost. It's not because they don't have money. It's because raising the price further is too risky. And what if the island chaebols tear their faces and don't let them enter the market? What should they do? With only 50 million people in South Korea, it would be too difficult to bid 1.7 billion US dollars. Gold, when can the cost be recovered? So, after the final price was raised to 1.75 billion US dollars, the South Korean chaebols chose to give up. Despite giving up, many people are still trying to cooperate with the island country. Whether it is the island country consortium entering South Korea or the South Korean chaebol entering the island country market, they have to find partners, otherwise the opponent will trip them up. In the end, the East Asia Agency was won by Mitsui at a price of 1.92 billion US dollars. Congratulations to this gentleman for winning the East Asia Agency. Please go to the registration office to register and verify the assets after the meeting. In addition, for the sake of fairness, any malicious bidding in companies that cannot come up with funds will be included in the permanent blacklist. Okay, the next auction is the Southeast Asia Agency, with a starting price of 100 million US dollars and an increase of 10 million US dollars each time. With the East Asia market case, after Wei Jiqiang finished speaking, the major Southeast Asian wealthy families and even state-owned capitals such as Temasek also raised their prices. 110 million. 2.31Z, 4.7Z. Although the Southeast Asian economy is not as strong as that of East Asia, it has a large population. And there is also the Lion City, which stands out in terms of economy. In addition, the economies of Siam and Malaysia are not bad, and the per capita income is relatively high. 0.70. But in general, the fierceness of competition or the final transaction price will definitely not be as high as that in East Asia. As expected. After more than 30 rounds of bidding, Temasek finally won the agency rights of the entire Southeast Asia region except for Xinhan at a price of 1.15 billion US dollars. Let us applaud warmly and congratulate this gentleman for winning the agency rights in Southeast Asia. On the stage, Wei Jiqiang had to clap his hands to express congratulations after seeing that no one was bidding. Others also clapped their hands. Some envied and some were jealous of the representatives of Temasek in Lion City, but more people plan to talk to people from Temasek about cooperation later, including Xie Jiren of Zhengda Group. Just now, he also raised the price several times in the auction. But it is not as strong as Temasek. They have a state-owned background and the entire Lion City government is behind them. And the assets under management exceed 100 billion US dollars. How can these private companies compare? After Southeast Asia, Oceania was acquired by a US pharmaceutical company for 580 million US dollars. South Asia was acquired by a British pharmaceutical giant for 820 million US dollars. Although the population in South Asia is large, the consumption capacity is very low. Otherwise, with several countries in South Asia, let alone 820 million US dollars, even 1.8 billion US dollars would have people scrambling to grab it. West Asia was also acquired by a British pharmaceutical company for 590 million US dollars. North Africa and South Africa were acquired by the Gallic Consortium for $460 million. Eastern Europe was acquired by Sweden from Northern Europe for $1.32 billion. Eastern Europe is much richer than Southeast Asia and has a large population. And the auction area also includes Northern Europe. Several small countries in Northern Europe are all developed countries. In addition, although the whitening liquid market is not popular in these areas, breast augmentation drugs and male enhancement drugs are popular, and these two items alone are worth buying. After auctioning off several areas in succession, Wei Jiqian was very interested and his voice became louder. The next area we are going to auction is Western Europe, including Southern Europe. The starting price is $300 million, and each increase is not less than 10 million. As the most prosperous region in the world economy, it is also a place where developed countries gather. The starting price is naturally different. Moreover, Western Europe, Southern Europe, has a large population. The 5 countries of Gaul, Prussia, Britain, Rome and Spain alone have a total population of more than 320 million, not counting others. The entire region has 500 to 600 million people. The market potential can be said to be the largest region in the world. This is indeed the case. After Wei Jiqian finished speaking, more than 20 companies from consortiums and international giants joined the battle. 380 million. Sibj, 400 million. 700 million. 750 million. 1.52 billion. 1.83 billion. At this point in the competition, only 4 or 5 companies are left. None of the parties want to give up. There were several rounds of bidding. After reaching 2.02 billion, only 2 companies were left. They were L'Oréal from Gaul. Yes, this cosmetics giant also wants to get the agency rights. After all, it is engaged in daily chemicals and knows too well the appeal of these products to women. The other one is Procter & Gamble from the United States. Even Johnson & Johnson is a younger brother in front of this person. They are also determined to win the European agency rights. Both companies are giants with a market value of $100 billion. Lu Lin, who was sitting in the back row, was very happy to see this drama of the snipe and the clam fighting and the fisherman gaining the benefits. 2.05 billion. 21Z. 2.23 billion. 2.26 billion. Perhaps knowing that if they continue to argue like this, it will be Jimin Pharmaceutical Company that gets the advantage, so the 2 sides reached an agreement privately. Share the European agency rights. Both parties jointly hold shares and establish a joint venture. Of course, this is all later. After the 2 parties reached an agreement, the bidding will naturally not continue. In the end, L'Oréal won the agency rights in Western Europe, including Southern Europe, at a price of $2.35 billion. Congratulations to this gentleman for winning the agency. The next auction we are going to make is for South America, which is densely populated and has uneven economic development, but in general, it is far better than Southeast Asia, so the starting price this time is $200 million, and each bid is no less than $10 million. Perhaps it was because of the previous experience. Or perhaps it was for the purpose of deterring others. Johnson & Johnson offered $600 million right away. This gentleman bid $600 million, is there a higher price? Wei Jiqian shouted. However, few people were willing to bid. South America is just like the African continent, in chaos. If you don't have a strong background and strength to do business in these places, you can't do it at all. In terms of influence on South America, it is undoubtedly the United States. After shouting 3 times in a row, seeing that no one bid, Wei Jiqian had to congratulate the man who shouted $600 million. Congratulations to this gentleman for successfully winning the agency in South America. Pa. There was dense applause at the scene, and everyone congratulated the man. After the applause ended, Wei Jiqian was solemn and looked much more serious. The next auction is the North American agency rights, which is also the last auction today. I won't introduce the North American region, everyone knows it. Bullshit. As a beacon of the world. The world's largest economy, tens of millions of people go to the United States or immigrate to the United States every year. The population is 300 to 400 million. Moreover, there are several countries in North America, such as Maple Leaf, Mexico and Central America, and the gap between the rich and the poor in this region is huge. The rich are very rich, and the poor can't even eat properly. But overall, it is second only to the Western European market. The reserve price for this auction is $300 million, and each increase is not less than $20 million. The voice has not fallen yet. Immediately, someone raised his hand and shouted, 350 million. It was quite bluffing before to increase by 50 million, but now, staying here is basically a big capital. 4/Z. 51Z, 640 million. 91Z. This gentleman bid 900 million, is there anyone who can offer more? Seeing someone raise the price by more than 200 million, Wei Jiqian on the stage shouted excitedly. It scared many people who were not very strong. For companies like Novartis, Merck, AbbVie, etc., it is not scary. Which of the pharmaceutical giants like Merck and AbbVie does not have an annual revenue of more than $10 billion? What's more, L'Oreal and Procter & Gamble are working together privately. They can do the same. 950 million. 1 billion. 11/Z. 1.37 billion. 14/Z. 1.45 billion. Not only were they not scared, but they stimulated the bargaining trend. Of course, they were not bidding randomly. They planned to use 1 or even 2 years of revenue to obtain the agency rights. After all, pharmaceutical companies like them often invest hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars to develop a drug, and then slowly make money. Spending more than a dozen or $2 billion to get a 10-year agency is considered profitable. After all, the market for these drugs is too huge. Although I don't understand why Jimin sold the agency, for them, this is a great opportunity to make money. Soon, the price was raised to 2.23 billion. At this time, even pharmaceutical giants such as AbbVie and Novartis began to retreat. In the end, Johnson & Johnson and Merck faced off. After several rounds, Merck won the agency at a price of $2.68 billion. Congratulations to this gentleman for winning the North American agency. Please go to the registration desk in front to register for the above gentlemen who have won the bidding rights. At the same time, in order to thank you for taking the trouble to come to Chang'an, the company has arranged a banquet. If you are not in a hurry to leave, please come. Afternoon. After the people left the building and the bustle was gone, Wei Jiqiang gave the statistical list to Lu Lin. Mr. Lu, the statistics have been compiled. This time, the bidding for the agency rights received a total of $12.47 billion in agency fees, which exceeded the previous expectations by 40%. Lu Lin nodded, but he was not too surprised. After all, he was at the auction in the morning. Have you explained everything clearly to all the major agents? It has been explained clearly. The shipping price of whitening liquid is $299, the price of freckle and acne cream is $329, and the shipping price of female bear stimulating secondary medicine is $2,000. In addition, each region has set a minimum annual purchase quantity, and they all agreed and signed the contract. Hearing that the contract had been signed, Lu Lin nodded slightly, and his heart was relieved. In order to prevent someone from not selling or passively selling after obtaining the agency rights, a special rule was formulated, that is, the number of goods purchased in this area each year must not be less than a certain amount. Take the East Asia agency rights, and the number of breast augmentation drugs purchased each year must not be less than 1 million bottles, and whitening liquid and freckle and acne cream are set with a minimum sales quantity. This is like the assessment of a car 4S store. As for how much you sell at retail, Jimin will not stipulate, you want to sell as much as you want, as long as you can sell it, it is your ability. The said quantity is not too much, and it is basically calculated according to the minimum. As long as you work hard on the agency and operation and promotion, it is impossible not to achieve it. The reason why he chose this method is to save energy and focus on drug production. Imagine that after adopting this method, there is no need to establish markets and sales channels in various regions around the world. You only need to bring the drugs produced by the pharmaceutical factory to the ports and airports. The remaining sales issues to customers will be solved by the agents. It saves time and worry, what a good thing. Moreover, the issues that need to be approved in various countries for the listing of drugs do not need to be solved by Jimin, but by the agents themselves. If they cannot be solved within the stipulated 6 months or 10 months, then I'm sorry, your agency qualification will be cancelled according to the contract. And the agency fee will not be refunded. The business is so domineering. As for imitation, it is even more difficult. If the formula is not announced, it depends on how you imitate it. Moreover, even if you know the formula, you still have to know the pharmaceutical process and process. Therefore, don't worry about the problem of imitation, at least not in the next 5 or 6 years. Follow up as soon as possible and urge them to pay the agency fee, within 30 days at most. If they don't pay the agency fee within 30 days, we will directly replace them. We don't have to worry about not having agents for our drugs. Wei Jiqiang nodded when he heard this, indicating that he had taken note. After chatting for a few more words, Lu Lin asked someone to call the director of the production department. Invest in expanding the factory. Before, it was limited by the channel. Now that the channel problem has been solved, what needs to be considered is whether the production can keep up. Expanding the factory and recruiting workers are definitely necessary. After explaining, Lu Lin personally called Xiao Yunhai's secretary, and then transferred the call to Xiao Yunhai's office. He called and reported the situation of the auction. Xiao Yunhai was overjoyed when he learned that he had received $12.2 billion in agency fees. Oasis was worried about the funds, but Lu Lin gave him a big surprise. He asked him to transfer $2 billion to Oasis to invest in several internet projects in Longboat and the United States. Websites such as Magnetron, WhatsApp, INS, Uber, and social chat software companies. Investing in overseas internet companies is also profitable, especially when you know the general trend. As the major agents gradually transferred funds to after the establishment of Jimin Pharmaceutical Company, Jimin began to recruit people crazily. Recruitment information can be seen on major recruitment platforms and local human resources and social security bureaus. 8-hour work system, monthly salary of 3,000 yuan, overtime of 20 yuan per hour. Such a salary is considered high in Xinhan. But the advantage is that there is no requirement for academic qualifications, no restrictions on gender, as long as you are over 18 years old and under 60 years old. Such a salary has attracted a large number of people from poor and backward areas to work in Jimin Pharmaceutical Factory. The monthly salary is 3,000 yuan. According to the current exchange rate, 1 yuan equals 2.85 yuan. The yuan has appreciated. Jackie Chan's currency is about 8,550 yuan. You have to know that it is 2010 now. Moreover, overtime is 20 yuan per hour. If there is a disadvantage, it is that it does not include accommodation. For a salary of 3,000 yuan, it is not a big deal to include accommodation. After all, this salary is definitely one of the best in the Xinhan factory. And this salary is higher than that of Lion City. At this time, the salary of ordinary workers in Lion City is only $2,000, which is 6,300 yuan in Xinhan currency. So, this salary is definitely high. Episode 52, Crazy Enrollment Expansion. Focus on both people's livelihood and national defense. In just 1 week, tens of thousands of people signed up. After screening, only more than 5,200 people were finally hired. 5,200 people plus the original more than 1,000 workers are enough to meet the production needs for a long time in the future. In fact, there is no need for so many workers. If automated production is adopted, only a few hundred people are enough. However, in order to increase the employment rate, fully automated production was deliberately abandoned. Increasing the employment rate is actually a disguised way to stabilize the social environment. The time came to late March. After several months of overtime construction, the Military Research Institute base located in Beiqing district has also been completed. Xiao Yunhai, who learned the news, took time out to come to the institute. The area is very large, about 70 or 80 football fields. It takes a long time to drive a car inside. Airports, office buildings, factories, including the construction of air defense facilities, can be said to be everything is available. It is completely a base plus a military production base. There are 7 or 8 large and small factories alone. Good. Call Shanghai Aircraft Manufacturing Company and ask them to send someone over to prepare for the relocation. After visiting the military research base, Xiao Yunhai showed a satisfied smile on his face and instructed Lin Na, who was accompanying him. The so-called Shanghai Aircraft Manufacturing Company is an aviation aircraft manufacturing company specially established by Xiao Yunhai. The team is 500 aviation research experts he exchanged from the system before. Coincidentally, he also wanted to know how the development of the Gripen fighter project was progressing. In less than 20 minutes, Xia Qiming, president of Shanghai Aircraft Manufacturing Company, arrived. Your Highness. Xiao Yunhai nodded, raised his hand and pointed to the empty airport and some office buildings and factories in front of him. Look, this is where you will work in the future. What do you think? Hearing this, Xia Qiming exhaled, adjusted his breath, and began to look around the park. Seeing that the entire park was located in a valley, surrounded by hills, with only one opening leading to the periphery, he nodded and said, "It's good, the safety factor is high, and it is convenient for confidentiality." Well, I think so too. As long as we set up sentry towers on the surrounding mountaintops and build a protective net, we can prevent spies from infiltrating. After a pause, he smiled and said, "It's been a long time since we last met. Let's take a walk?" Hearing this, Xia Qiming nodded, knowing that Xiao Yunhai had something to ask. Xiao Yunhai turned to Lin Na, who was following behind him, and said, "Secretary Lin, you don't have to follow me. I will talk to President Xiao alone." Hearing this, Lin Na and others stopped. How is the progress of the fighter project? After walking a distance, Xiao Yunhai asked. Your Highness, the current progress is less than 50%, mainly due to some material limitations, but we have made progress in some projects, such as air-to-air missiles. Based on the AIM-120C air-to-air missile and the technical data of air-to-air missiles such as Thunderbolt and Meteor that you gave us last time, we have developed a number of new air-to-air missiles, namely the internal codenamed Changkong 2 short-range combat missile, Changkong 3 medium-range air-to-air missile and Changkong 5 long-range air-to-air missile. Oh? Xiao Yunhai asked happily, what about the range? Changkong 2 has a range of 21 kilometers and uses infrared imaging guidance. Changkong 3, there are two models, namely AB, of which Model A has a range of 80 km and a speed of Mach 4, and Model B uses carbon fiber materials, with a range of 130 km and a speed of Mach 5. Model A uses infrared imaging guidance. External imaging plus semi-active radar guidance. B model uses active radar guidance. 1. The Changkong 5 long-range air-to-air missile also has AB models, using a dual-pulse engine. The A model has a range of 180 km and a speed of Mach 5. The B model has a maximum range of 245 km, which can only be achieved under specific conditions. Both air-to-air missiles use active radar guidance. However, these are computer simulation data, and the specifics have to be built and tested to be clear. Although it has not been tested, the data should not deviate too much. Hearing that the maximum range can reach 245 km, Xiao Yunhai took a breath of cold air. This range is completely at the world-class level, and its performance even exceeds that of Longhua PL-15 and AIM-120C7, second only to the ultra-long-range air-to-air missile of the Russian Bear. Of course, there are more advanced models, such as PL-21 and AIM-174B, whose ranges are all above 300 to 400 km. But this kind of ultra-long-range air-to-air missile has requirements for the mounting carrier. Moreover, as long as we don't fight with the three major powers, the range of Changkong's air-to-air missiles is enough. The most important thing is that the emergence of Changkong can enable Xinhan to achieve air-to-air missile autonomy, and there is no need to worry about running out of missiles after launching. This is the greatest significance of the emergence of Changkong missiles. What about the engine? How about the aero engine? Xiao Yunhai asked the most critical question. The aero engine technology is fine. We have already put together one, but we lack wind tunnel testing. Xiao Yunhai didn't know much about this. When he heard that something was missing, he immediately said, "Well, you make me a list of what equipment needs to be purchased. As for the wind tunnel construction, you arrange for people to build it. If you are short of money, find Lin Na and she will help you solve it. As long as he can build a fighter jet, no matter how much points and money Xiao Yunhai spends, it is worth it." That night, when it was quiet, Xiao Yunhai drove to the base again, asked the guards to wait outside, and he walked into a building, and then directly opened the system talent recruitment panel. He planned to recruit an army of 2,000 people. There is no need to worry about the identity information of the recruited talents and soldiers. According to the system, the recruited, death soldiers, will automatically obtain nationality and information cards. Panel, he recruited according to the Special Forces panel. 416 Hong Kong dollars assault rifles, P226 pistols, tactical vests, tactical helmets and other individual equipment are all available. According to his combination of recruitment, one person will get 100,000 points. It is a bit expensive, but it is 100% loyal. What's more, it consumes points. This thing only if you want to spend money, you will get it immediately. Ding, spend 200 million points, get one armed force, whether to materialize it immediately. Seeing the prompt, Xiao Yunhai did not hesitate, and immediately chose, yes. He came so late just to recruit death warriors. After controlling this base, outsiders are not allowed to come in, so that if he recruits talents or buys things from the system in the future, he does not have to worry about the surrounding situation. The next second, fully armed soldiers began to appear in front of Xiao Yunhai. There was no light, so it was dark and could not be seen clearly. After everyone got familiar with the surrounding situation, they bowed to Xiao Yunhai. After polite greetings, Xiao Yunhai casually appointed a death warrior named Wang Yaowen as the commander of this unit, and he did not need to worry about the following appointments. In addition, for this unit, Xiao Yunhai also gave them it was given the designation Yilining and was affiliated with the Royal Guards, but was not under the jurisdiction of the Royal Guards. The next day. In the morning. I heard that you recruited an army of 2,000 people? Xiao Yunhai was not surprised to hear his father Xiao Hongjing's question. There were so many people, and they were all soldiers. If Xiao Hongjing didn't even know this, the royal family would have been overthrown long ago. Xiao Yunhai looked normal and nodded slightly. It is true. There are 2,000 people. I plan to build a military research institute in the North City district, and they will be responsible for security work. Is it reliable? More reliable than the royal guards. Xiao Yunhai said lightly. Hearing this, Xiao Hongjing nodded slightly. He didn't ask how these 2,000 people came from. He knew that his eldest son had a secret. This was clear from the film company he set up and the medical research institute he set up. Pharmaceutical companies can see it. Although it is not clear where his son got so many talents, it is still very important. As long as it is beneficial to their Xiao family and Xinhan, there is no need to get to the bottom of some things. Seeing that his father did not seem to ask about the details of these people, Xiao Yunhai secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Although he could find excuses to fool them, lies would have loopholes after all. Fortunately, there is no need to explain now. I heard that your Jimin pharmaceutical company recently held an agency auction? Did you make a lot of money? Yes, I made a lot of money. How much? Xiao Hongjing asked curiously. It seems to be just over 10 billion US dollars. Xiao Yunhai said lightly. What? 10 billion? Or US dollars? Xiao Hongjing was not calm now, and his eyes almost popped out. Although he is rich, 10 billion US dollars is not a small number for him. No, your pharmaceutical company is so profitable? Why are there so many people willing to pay for agency rights? Xiao Hongjing was a little confused. Even if Jimin Pharmaceuticals' weight loss pills are very profitable, there shouldn't be so many people paying for agency rights, right? Not bad. Xiao Yunhai analyzed. The reason why they are willing to spend so much money to buy the agency rights is mainly because they are optimistic about Jimin in the long term. And the reason why they are so optimistic about Jimin is very simple. Recently, there has been a major breakthrough at the Biomedical Research Institute. They have studied a drug that can be popular all over the world, and the market potential is very large, so they are willing to spend money to buy the agency rights. I see. Xiao Hongjing showed a look of realization and looked at his son's calm expression, as if 10 billion US dollars was just a small number. Just this determination, Bao was ashamed of himself. I feel like I have lived like a dog for decades, but I am not as determined as a young man. I don't understand. Xiao Hongjing shook his head. However, you are on the right track in the medical industry. You have to develop it vigorously. It will have a great boost to the national economy. He can lie about this sentence. It can be seen from last year's GDP that in just a few months, the medical industry accounted for 6% of GDP. This year, it seems that this proportion will increase further. It has become a pillar industry. From the current medical, film and television, and the tourism that is being vigorously developed, Xiao Hongjing feels that his eldest son seems to be a master of economy. Less than a year after returning to Xinhan, the economy has soared by 55%. He is a little lucky that he was in a hurry to make his eldest son the crown prince. This move was right. It can be expected that the royal status of the Xiao family will be more solid in the next few decades. By the way, Xiao Hongjing suddenly remembered something. When do you plan to visit Longhua? Please give me flowers. In a few days, I will go after some things are dealt with. Xiao Yunhai planned to go after he settled the matter of the Military Research Institute. After breakfast, Xiao Yunhai chatted with his father for a while, and then he got up and left. Go, North City, Military Research Institute. Xiao Yunhai said to the driver after opening the car door and getting into a bulletproof Mercedes-Benz S-Class sedan. Yes, Your Highness. The driver responded respectfully. A moment later, a convoy of 5 cars drove out of the palace and headed towards the North City district. A few minutes later, they arrived at the gate of the newly listed Xinghan Aircraft Manufacturing Company, Limited, located in the valley of North City district. Several Yulin camp soldiers guarded the gate with live ammunition. Since the recruitment last night, this area was designated as a military restricted area overnight, and the Yulin camp took over the defense and security work. Your Highness. After seeing that the person in the car was Xiao Yunhai, the soldier in charge of inspection saluted hurriedly. Then he waved his hand and signaled his companion to open the iron gate. The convoy drove into the institute. Unlike before, there were many more soldiers inside today. The convoy stopped at an office building. You wait downstairs. Xiao Yunhai got out of the car, said something to the bodyguard who was going to go into the building with him, and then walked up. The bodyguards looked at each other and stayed obediently in front of the car door, looking around curiously, especially the soldiers who were in training. They remembered that there was no one when they came yesterday. How come it feels like the world has changed overnight? Your Highness. Along the way, he met many soldiers from the Yulin camp, who greeted him respectfully. Xiao Yunhai smiled and nodded in response. 00. He came to an office and raised his hand to knock on the door. Then he opened the door and walked in. Your Highness. Inside the room, Xia Qiming, who heard the knock on the door, saw that the person who came in was Xiao Yunhai, and hurriedly stood up. After last night, Xia Qiming moved here early in the morning to facilitate coordination with the garrison. How is it, President Xia? Are the required equipment and materials ready? Xiao Yunhai asked. He came here mainly to buy equipment for the aircraft manufacturing company from the system. During this period, he invested heavily in the tourism industry, and the previous reward of 10 billion Han Yuan brought him billions of points. He used a lot of it in the middle, and now he still has more than 2.7 billion. Hearing Xiao Yunhai asking about the list, Xia Qiming reached out and picked up a document on the table, and said as he walked, I counted it overnight last night. Your Highness, please take a look. This is the equipment and materials needed. Hearing this, Xiao Yunhai reached out and took the document. He took a look at the densely packed equipment, such as CNC machining machines, carbon fiber laying machines, various robots, etc., covering hundreds of various mechanical equipment, and his scalp was numb. Okay, I'll take the list first, and you can transfer the personnel and equipment here, which is safer. Xiao Yunhai put away the list and said to Xiao Qiming with a serious face. Xiao Qiming nodded. The transfer has started today, and it should be all transferred in 2 days. Well, okay, you go ahead. Xiao Yunhai didn't bother too much and left with the list. In the base, he found a large and empty factory building. Then he opened the system interface. According to the list given by Xiao Qiming, he began to purchase production equipment in the system. A lot of them, including those used to manufacture integrated circuit lithography machines. Like radars and various electronic instruments, these all require chip design. In short, building aircraft and achieving full autonomy is a very large project. After buying all the equipment on the list, he spent 500 million points to buy 1,000 technical engineers and 3,000 technical assembly workers. In this way, a medium-sized aircraft manufacturing company was formed. Although there are few people, they can be self-sufficient. Take carbon fiber materials as an example. You can buy finished products directly in the system. Avionics equipment and engines can also be bought directly as finished products and then assembled. However, buying in the system is not a long-term thing after all, and a technical engineering team must be cultivated. Why did he insist on building petrochemicals in Xinhan? Isn't it because many materials can be extracted from crude oil, such as carbon fiber, asphalt, graphene, motor oil, paraffin, coatings, and other materials, which can drive the relevant industries of the entire Xinhan and reduce the import of raw materials? In a word, points should be used in more places, and things that can be solved with money are not a big deal. After handing over the exchanged equipment, materials, and newly recruited personnel to Xiao Qiming, Xiao Yunhai left. It was useless for him to stay. Back to the palace. He found a pen and paper. Started to count the industries to be laid out. In the field of medicine, there are already several new drugs, and it is not appropriate to launch new drugs. Too fast, it will arouse the curiosity of the outside world about Jim and Company and increase troubles. The entertainment industry can add some manpower. 300 people are still a bit stretched. Especially when multiple projects are carried out at the same time. Yes. It is necessary to increase to 1,000 people. In this way, multiple projects can be started at the same time. It can also get involved in the game industry. Episode 53. Industrial planning, rediscovery of oil, official visit to Dragon Country. Medicine has it. Entertainment has it. Batteries are a big market. It just so happens that I bought a new type of battery technology from the system before. It's time to recruit technical R&D engineers to make this thing. After all, it has a wide range of applications, including mobile phones, tablets, electric motorcycles, car batteries, future drones, UPS, and hundreds of other fields. After it becomes bigger and stronger, it can not only make money, but also drive at least tens of thousands of jobs. Well, batteries must be made. Thinking about it, he put a V behind the word battery. That's right. How did I almost forget about this thing? Xiao Yunhai patted his head and suddenly remembered that he had bought Magic Gene pesticide formula from the discount mall before. This thing is very useful. It can increase farmers' income, so it must be made as soon as possible. Well, I have to set up a pesticide company. He ticked the pesticide company. Looking at the list, Xiao Yunhai thought carefully about what industry is attractive enough and will not cause sanctions from European and American countries. Just like the semiconductor industry, he didn't set foot in it because he didn't want to conflict with Europe and the United States too much. After the sanctions were imposed on Lianlong, the economy declined severely, not to mention that a small country like Xinhan, which is also an island country, will inevitably suffer from economic recession after being sanctioned. Once everyone is used to a good life and suddenly can't make money, it will inevitably cause domestic conflicts. So, it's not that he doesn't want to make semiconductors, but because of national strength. Before it develops, it's better to keep a low profile and farm. Although mobile phones, computers, chips, and communications cannot be made, civilian drones can be made. At present, the civilian drone industry is still in its infancy. Even if it is made, it will not infringe on the interests of the United States, and it will not cause the country to make a big move to sanction. There are also simultaneous translation headphones, a portable headset, which can translate in real time according to the communication between the two parties through AI algorithms. He had seen this thing before in the system Mall 673. The difficulty is not great, mainly because the computing power chip requirements are relatively high, and the other is the AI intelligent algorithm. Through the language model, English, Chinese, Japanese, etc. are included in it and fed to it. It is actually not difficult to achieve. But this thing has a huge market. After all, there are many people in the world who don't know English, Chinese, Japanese, or Korean. Once this thing is launched, it will definitely be welcomed by the market, and it hasn't touched the cake of the United States. Wait. How could I forget this industry? Xiao Yunhai looked annoyed. Medical beauty industry. Don't underestimate this industry. South Korea relied on this industry, and at its peak, it brought nearly $100 billion in revenue each year, making medical beauty a signboard in synonym of South Korea. Millions of people go there every year. This is still medical beauty. Think about it, these millions, or even tens of millions of people go to South Korea, eat, drink, defecate, and live in clothing, which brings an increase in income for the service industry, and most of them will go on tours, which also indirectly promotes the development of South Korea's tourism industry. Otherwise, South Korea has no scenery and its beach resources are extremely poor. How can it become a world-renowned tourist country? Take Xinhan as an example. The island tourism resources crush South Korea. And the tourism income is not even 10% of South Korea. Therefore, Xinhan's tourism industry still has a lot to improve. Developing the medical beauty industry is not only lucrative, but also can drive the development of tourism and other service industries, killing two birds with one stone. The key is that it can also earn foreign exchange, further enriching Xinhan's ability to earn foreign exchange. The more foreign exchange, the more resistance to financial risks. The most important thing is that with the existence of the system, he can make Xinhan the country with the strongest medical beauty technology in the world in a few minutes. He wrote the words medical beauty on the paper and ticked the box. Think about it again, are there any other industries that are highly profitable and profitable? After thinking for a while, he didn't think of any other suitable industries, so he simply stopped thinking about it. He looked at the content on the paper. Petrochemical, medicine, medical beauty, batteries, entertainment, tourism, technology, drones and intelligent translation equipment, agriculture, using biological genetic pesticides to increase the production of tropical fruits such as durian, and the taste becomes better. 8 major industries are enough to build a new Han economy in a short time. As for the military industry, Xiao Yunhai did not plan to generate income. The military industry is not about how advanced your weapons are, and people will buy them. Weapons are more about considering geopolitical relations. What you buy is not weapons, but security protection. Why do so many countries buy weapons from the United States? Why do only a few countries buy the high-quality and low-cost weapons from Longwa? It's because the United States is a world superpower. Buying its weapons often gets security protection, plus the blessing of economic trade. These are all things that New Han does not have, so from the beginning, he did not consider making money from the military industry, and it was enough to achieve national defense independence in high-end weapons. In addition to these, the companies invested by the Royal Investment Bureau can also be allowed to invest and set up factories in New Han. For example, the supply chain of the fruit company is required to be located in New Han, not to mention the global supply chain. At least a regional supply chain should be established in New Han. In this regard, I believe Apple will sell face. After all, the Royal Investment Bureau is a major shareholder of Apple, with a 17.35% stake. There is also the South Korean Samsung company that has invested. In addition, you can also set up a car company to produce off-road vehicles such as the Tank 300, which should have a market. It doesn't matter whether it makes money or not, what you want is to increase the employment rate. The more you think about it, the more ideas Xiao Yunhai has in his mind. He quickly recorded the ideas in his mind, regardless of whether they are useful or not, and wrote them down first for later reference. The next day. In the morning. Xiao Yunhai called Lin Na. He instructed her, write down a few things. Hearing this, Lin Na quickly took out a pen and paper, looking like she was listening. Seeing this, Xiao Yunhai said, first, set up a hospital company, let's call it Shanghai Plastic Surgery Hospital Company, and build 2 hospitals in Chang'an. According to the construction of a large hospital, the number of wards must be at least 3,000. If you don't understand this, you can consult the Ministry of Health and build it according to the scale of Chang'an Hospital. Chang'an Hospital is the largest public hospital in Xinhan. Second, register Shanghai Technology Company, Shanghai Battery Technology Company, Shanghai Agricultural Development Company, Limited and Shanghai Automobile Manufacturing Company. After registering these 4 companies, register a group company and incorporate the previous Shanghai Airlines, Shanghai Real Estate, and the newly registered Shanghai Plastic Surgery and other companies named Shanghai into the Shanghai Group. Third, invest in building an industrial park in Jiangning County, Hanyang, with a total planned area of 30 square kilometers. You will communicate with the relevant departments to further improve the plan and tell them that this industrial park plans to accommodate 100,000 people to work here. As for the investment and construction issues, they don't need to consider them. I will hold a meeting at that time. Xiao Yunhai wanted to speed up the progress and build the hospital and level the site in advance, so as to save time. Whether it is building a factory or opening a hospital, it can save a lot of time. And he chose to invest in Jiangning County to drive the local economic development. Second, the Chang'an area has been developed more maturely. If you want to get such a large piece of land in Chang'an, you need to demolish too many houses. Just the coordination of compensation is not something that can be done in a short time. On the contrary, Jiangning does not have this problem. Secondly, Jiangning has a good location advantage, located between Lanling County and Chang'an City. Whether it is to the Lanling Port Terminal or the Chang'an Port Terminal, the airport is only 50 kilometers away. For the industrial park, this distance is not far. What's more, from the perspective of development, not all industries can be deployed in Chang'an. If all industries are deployed in Chang'an, it will only cause serious imbalance in regional development. Therefore, decentralized investment to drive the economic development of various regions is the most reasonable industrial layout. Just as Xiao Yunhai asked Lin Na to do something, the phone in front of him suddenly rang. Hearing the sound, Xiao Yunhai stopped talking, then raised his hand to pick up the phone in front of him. Hello? Your Highness, great news, the exploration team just discovered a large oil field in the coastal area of Jiangdu County. It is estimated that the reserves exceed 2 billion tons. The Minister of Energy smiled happily on the phone. Needless to say, it must be the oil field with a reserve of 2.67 billion tons that he had previously released through the system. Xiao Yunhai stood up in a flash, pretending to be surprised. Minister Chen, are you sure the exploration is correct? Your Highness, it is correct. The exploration team has explored many areas around and found oil. And like Jeddah Bay, it is all high-quality light oil. Good, well done. Xiao Yunhai reminded, don't announce the specific reserves. You can spread the word that an oil field with reserves of 800 to 100 million tons was found in Jiangdu. There is no need to announce the actual reserves. Of course, this can only be concealed for a while. If there are spies who bribe people from the Ministry of Energy, the exploration data will be leaked sooner or later. However, he did not plan to hide for a long time. He just wanted to develop steadily for a few years. It doesn't matter if it is exposed in a few years. By then, Xinhan will probably have developed economically and militarily. Even if it is not as good as the 5 big gangsters, it must become a feared existence. Like the Jewish state in the Middle East, it will become a regional hedgehog and a powerful country. Okay, Your Highness, don't worry, I have asked people to block the news and told the relevant insiders not to disclose the news. The Minister of Energy on the other end of the phone also knew the seriousness of the matter and quickly replied. Hearing this, Xiao Yunhai said lightly. Talking to smart people is time-saving and worry-free. After emphasizing it again, he hung up the phone. Seeing Lin Na's curious look, Xiao Yunhai casually said, just now, the exploration team of the Ministry of Energy discovered a large oil field in the coastal area of Jiangdu County. Is not bad. Hearing this, Lin Na's face showed joy. Great. Your Highness, I strongly suggest that we conduct exploration in our entire Xinhan area. Since we can find 2 oil fields, there may be more oil fields. Lin Na said happily. Xiao Yunhai, speechless. This is the oil field resource card I bought from the system, not the oil field in that place. He complained a few words in his heart, but did not refute Lin Na's words. He was thinking about whether to take the opportunity to use a few more oil field cards. After all, the reserves of the 2 oil fields combined are less than 6 billion tons, which is not even comparable to one oil field in Shiluotu. The reserves of Shiluotu's Gawar oil field are as high as 11.2 billion tons. According to the previous mining plan formulated by Xinhan Royal Oil Company, annual mining of 900 million barrels, about 125 million tons, these 2 oil fields can be opened for 30 to 40 years. If more oil fields are added, it will certainly bring more profits. But it will also reduce the international crude oil price. Scarcity makes things valuable. Originally, Xinhan did not produce oil, but now it does, and it produces 900 million barrels a year, which will naturally affect the international crude oil price. If the production volume is increased, the price will be low. So there is no need to use the oil field resource card anymore. On the contrary, the 2 oil fields are attractive enough now. If it is revealed that there are more than 10 billion or even tens of billions of oil fields, Xinhan's situation will be even more dangerous. Before there is a strong national strength, we must learn to hide our shortcomings, otherwise it will only cause others to plunder. Therefore, Xiao Yunhai cancelled the idea of using the resource card again. Looking at Lin Na, who looked happy, he smiled slightly and did not talk about this topic again. 2 days later, Xinhan National Television reported the news that the Ministry of Energy had discovered a new oil field while broadcasting the news. Recently, the Ministry of Energy received good news that a new oil field was suspected to have been discovered in the waters near Jiangdu County. According to relevant personnel from the Ministry of Energy, the oil field is expected to have reserves of 800 million to 1 billion tons. The discovery of this oil field will further enhance my country's oil resource reserves. That night, Xinhan people who were sitting in front of the TV watching the program, seeing the report in the news, many people were happy. Damn, no wonder I keep running into a group of exploration ships when I go out to sea recently. Did they really find oil? Great, they found 1 billion tons. Will the oil price go down? I don't think so. After all, it has already dropped once. It was 2.3 yuan before, but now it only costs 1.8 yuan per liter. It's already a big deal. P.S. The currency here is Chinese yuan, not the Chinese yuan of Dragon Country. Whether the price drops or not, it's a good thing. After all, the richer the oil reserves, the richer the country, and the better the life of ordinary people like us. Yes, that's right. Soon, Xinhan discovered a new oil field, and it spread on overseas news and media websites such as YouTube. For a while, many people looked at Xinhan with envy. Some people were jealous. And the Philippines and Java, the two countries, jumped even more, claiming that these oil resources belonged to them and Xinhan had no right to exploit them. Even Malaysia, which has always had a tepid relationship with China, has now jumped out and claimed that Sabah should belong to Malaysia, because Sabah was also a British colony. As the heir of Britain's legacy in Southeast Asia, Malaysia should belong to Malaysia. As for the shameless 5.7 countries, Xinhan did not pay attention to them, but officially exploited the oil field in Jeddah Bay according to the plan. In addition to selling part of the exploited crude oil to the petrochemical company at the port, most of it is sold to the mainland of Longwa, Hong Kong, Taiwan, South Korea, and island countries. The reason is simple: the distance is short. Secondly, it is cost-effective, and the quality of the oil products is good. In this case, they are naturally willing to purchase Xinhan's crude oil. There are many verbal attacks, but few people actually take action. After all, war is not something that can be started at any time. However, in view of the current situation, Xiao Hongjing still ordered the army to enter a state of combat readiness. In view of the current situation, Xiao Yunhai, who originally planned to go to Longwei in May, also moved up the time by 1 month. April 5. Xiao Yunhai led the inspection team, boarding an Airbus A321 passenger plane, escorted by 2 F-16 and 4 Gripen JAS-39 fighter jets, to Longwa. No one knew before, but now that his identity has been exposed, the safety of the trip will naturally be upgraded by several levels. Besides, the Philippines monkeys are making trouble now. It is also a routine operation to send fighter jets for escort. Crossing the South China Sea, when about to enter the Pearl River Delta. 4 fighter jets appeared on both wings of the fleet. A voice was also heard in the communication channel. "Hello, dear guest, I am the Longwa Air Force. You have entered our airspace. According to, the next escort mission will be completed by us. Your Highness. It is the Longwa Air Force. According to international practice, the Longwa Air Force will escort next." The co-pilot walked over quickly and reported. Xiao Yunhai responded softly. Although this was his first time experiencing such a scene, he had seen many reports on the news and did not think it was inappropriate. Episode 54. Visit the naval shipyard and propose to purchase warships. Soon, the air forces of the two countries completed the handover. The Xinhan fighter planes that originally accompanied the two sides were replaced by Longwa fighter planes. And the Xinhan fighter planes did not stop in Longwa, but went back and forth directly. It was less than 1,700 kilometers from Xinhan Chang'an. This distance was within the round-trip range of the Gripen JAS-39 fighter and the F-16 fighter. There was no stop, and they flew all the way to the Magic City. The first stop of Xiao Yunhai's itinerary was to go to the Magic City and visit the Magic City shipyard. After that, he went north to Yanjing. The focus of this trip to Longwei was to purchase weapons and equipment, followed by economic cooperation. When the special plane arrived at the Pudong airport in the Magic City, it was already 11 o'clock in the morning. When the plane landed and taxied, Xiao Yunhai saw the red carpet, the motorcade, and the 3 service guard of honor through the glass. There were also some children holding the national flags of the two countries and flowers in their hands. Xiao Yunhai nodded secretly. From the scale of the reception, it can be seen that Longwa still attaches great importance to his arrival this time. But then again, Longwa has been a country of etiquette since ancient times. In diplomatic etiquette, it rarely deliberately manipulates people. Unless the two sides are at loggerheads, they will never let people gossip in diplomatic etiquette. UU 12Z/ZZ. Accompanied by the sound of the valve, the closed cabin door opened. Xiao Yunhai, dressed in a suit, smiled and walked off the plane first. Behind him were the assistant Lin Na 28 and several naval officers, including the deputy commander of the Navy, the deputy chief of staff of naval operations and other senior naval generals. Welcome Mr. Crown Prince to visit our country. On behalf of Longwa, I welcome your arrival. The person in charge of foreign affairs reception is Zhao Peng, the second in command of Longwa's foreign affairs department. Seeing Xiao Yunhai getting off the plane, Zhao Peng smiled and walked up to Xiao Maohai and shook hands with him warmly and politely. After all, he is the crown prince, not the king. Being able to send the second in command and greet him as a leader shows that they think highly of New Han. Through the introduction of New Han's ambassador to Longwa, Xiao Yunhai immediately knew the identity of the person shaking hands with him. Minister Zhao is too polite. I am very happy and cordial to come to Longwa. It's like returning home. Since Zhao Peng came to greet him, he naturally knew Xiao Yunhai's background and knew that he had studied in Longwa. When he heard Xiao Yunhai say this, he smiled brightly. After New Han discovered oil, its status in Longwa was rising. Before, it was just a strategic layout, plus they were of the same clan, and New Han was not like Lion City, which completely leaned towards Taiwan and the United States, so the relationship between the two countries has always been good. After the discovery of oil, New Han was located in the South China Sea. No matter from which angle, it was very necessary to strengthen the relationship with New Han. Now that the crown prince who had studied in Longwa can say such words, it is a great thing for Longwa. The crown prince is right. With the blood relationship between our two countries, it is indeed like going home. Zhao Peng took over and said with a smile. The two exchanged some official polite words, and then Xiao Yunhai took the flowers handed over by a child and gave him a warm hug. Then, accompanied by Zhao Peng, he shook hands with the officials from Longwa and Xinhan officials stationed in Longwa who came to greet him and said hello. Afterwards, Xiao Yunhai took his special car, a bulletproof Maybach. An hour before his visit, the special car was airlifted in advance. The drivers were also his bodyguards. The rest of the people took the vehicles arranged by Longwa. With several police cars leading the way, the convoy soon left the scene. When Xiao Yunhai visited the Magic City, online news also began to be released, all of which were official press releases. This morning, the special plane of the New Han Crown Prince arrived in Shanghai. It is reported that he will pay a 5-day state visit to our country. In addition to more than 100 words, there is also a photo of Xiao Yunhai shaking hands with Zhao Peng when he got off the plane. The news, reported by several major central media and portal websites, quickly fermented on the internet and became a hot search on Weibo. F***K, this Xinhan Crown Prince is so damn handsome. He's not only handsome, but also rich. It's said that the Xinhan royal family's wealth has reached hundreds of billions of US dollars. Oh my god, hundreds of billions of US dollars? This is almost catching up with our country's GDP, right? That's not the case. 1/10 is definitely there. It is said that Xinhan has discovered a large oil field with proven reserves of 1 billion tons. The royal family is said to own 80% of the shares of Xinhan Royal Petroleum Company. The oil alone is worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Too damn rich. That's nothing. It is said that this crown prince is very capable. After he became the crown prince, he vigorously developed the economy, infrastructure, medical and tourism industries, and made the Xinhan economy grow by 55% in less than a year. F***K? So amazing? Too awesome. We are both human beings, why is he so outstanding? I heard that this crown prince studied at Yen University. Is it true? It's true. This is my senior brother. His portrait is on the celebrity wall of Yen University. Wow, I envy you so much at Yanda University. You actually have a senior brother who is the crown prince. If I can't make it in the future, can I go to him and seek a position? The guy upstairs is awesome. Woohoo, I also want to have such an awesome senior brother. Compared to men, who are shocked by wealth and status, people are infatuated with him. So handsome, woohoo, this is the male god. Are there any sisters who know if this male god is married? I want to give birth to a child for him. So charming. This is the real male god. That shitty Principal Wang is nothing compared to this one. Sisters on the top floor, woohoo, they are far from the master. Longwa, Southern Xinjiang. Damimi is hanging out in a certain crew. At this moment, she is resting on a recliner, holding her phone and browsing Weibo. Since she realized that being black and red is also red, Damimi likes to read Weibo to understand trends, and occasionally interact with fans. While browsing Weibo, she saw a hot search quickly soaring on the hot search list. Hashtag the new Crown Prince of Han arrived in Shanghai today and officially paid a state visit to our country. Hashtag he came to Longwa? Seeing the title, Damimi instantly thought of someone. And the embarrassing scene in someone's torment on her also emerged in her mind. Thinking about it, her crossed legs could not help but tighten a lot. Click on this hot search. See that familiar, handsome face. Seeing the other party chatting and laughing with those foreign affairs bigwigs, Mimi was extremely intoxicated at the moment. It's not much better than those crazy women on the internet. Whether a woman is crazy depends on whether she has met a man who makes her heart move. Once she meets a man who makes her heart move, she will be a gentle little woman. After looking at the photos for a while, Mimi pursed her red lips, hesitated, and couldn't help but send a Weibo message to Xiao Yunhai. Time passed, but there was still no reply. Mimi didn't wait, guessing that someone was busy at the moment and had no time to reply to her message. This is true. Xiao Yunhai has no time to check Weibo. After staying in the hotel. On the same day, he was warmly entertained by the local government of Shanghai. Early the next morning, Xiao Yunhai, accompanied by the Foreign Affairs Department, went to the Magic City shipyard. These had been discussed before coming. When he arrived at the shipyard, the Dragon Navy had sent people to greet him. After getting off the car, the other party greeted him warmly. Hello, Mr. Crown Prince. I am Fong Jianhua, the person in charge of the Magic City shipyard. On behalf of the Magic City shipyard, I warmly welcome Mr. Crown Prince to visit. Hello. Xiao Yunhai stretched out his hand and shook hands with the other party. I am sorry to bother you this time. After exchanging a few polite words, Xiao Yunhai was cordially invited to visit. First, he visited the assembly area of the factory, and then he was taken to the office area to learn in detail about the Dock 637 landing ship, a new type of frigate and a 052C destroyer being produced by Hudong Shipyard. Director Fong, how long does it take for your country to produce such a frigate? Xiao Yunhai pointed to the 052C destroyer and asked. After hearing this, Fong Jianhua pondered for a moment and replied, it depends on the needs of the military. Under normal circumstances, one can be produced in 4 to 8 months. Listening to the ambiguous time mentioned by Fong Jianhua, Xiao Yunhai nodded slightly. This is the case with Longhua. Some words are very vague, leaving room for maneuver. After a general understanding, the group came to the meeting room. Director Fong, I came to your factory this time mainly to inspect. My country plans to purchase a batch of new frigates and landing ships, including submarines, and plans to upgrade our naval forces. I just saw that your 054F frigate is quite good, and the 071 Dock landing ship is also very good. How much do you sell these two warships? And your new conventional powered submarine, called the Yuan class, should be the 039B submarine. I am also interested. After sitting down, Xiao Yunhai did not beat around the bush and went straight to the point. Fong Jianhua was not surprised by Xiao Yunhai's words. After all, coming to visit, it must be planned to purchase warships, otherwise what is the point of visiting? However, what Xiao Yunhai said were all new warships in service in Longhua. Your Highness, the warships you want are all new military ships in my country. Whether they can be sold to foreign countries is not up to me. I need to communicate with the higher authorities before discussing this issue. Fong Jianhua replied. Xiao Yunhai nodded, is that so? Okay, you can communicate with your superiors. I came here with sincerity this time, hoping to further deepen the cooperative relationship between the two countries. Fong Jianhua nodded, indicating that he understood, and then stood up to make a phone call. Xiao Yunhai followed the naval generals to communicate. We also need to seek their opinions, after all, they are the users. Episode 55. Large-scale purchases excite the Magic City shipyard. Yanjing. In the city center, there is a group of ancient buildings. There is a small island in the center of the lake. Two men in mouse suits are walking and stretching their muscles. Time is not forgiving. I used to be able to sit for hours, but now I can't. An elderly man said while stretching his muscles. A middle-aged man who was a dozen years younger nodded with a smile. At this time, a middle-aged man in his 40s came over with a serious face. Seeing this, the old man smiled and said, look at Xiao Lu's pace. It seems that there is something important. As soon as the voice fell, the 40-year-old middle-aged man was the old man's secretary. Chief, Minister Wu of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Director Li of the National Defense Industry Bureau just called. They want to see you urgently and need to jump the queue to make an appointment with you for 15 minutes. They are now outside the courtyard. Hearing this, the old man looked slightly sullen. Ministry of Foreign Affairs? National Defense Industry Bureau? Thinking of the fact that the Crown Prince of Xinhan visited Longhua in the past 2 days, the old man instantly guessed a little bit of the matter. Most likely, Xinhan wanted to buy weapons, and it should not be in the catalog of weapons sold to foreign countries, otherwise the people of the National Defense Industry Bureau would not be in a hurry to see him. Since they are in a hurry, bring them directly. After saying that, the old man put his hands behind his back and walked slowly towards the office with small steps. The man, who was about 50 years old, with a square face and full of energy, slowly followed behind, looking like he was listening to instructions. A few minutes later, there were two more people in the old man's office. Wu Guangyou and Li Jianhong walked into the office and saw the old man, and hurriedly shouted respectfully, "Chief, sit down." The old man smiled and gestured. "Xiao Lu, have 2 cups of tea." Hearing this, Wu Guangyou hurriedly said, "No need, chief. I came here for an urgent matter this time." "No hurry." Before Wu Guangyou finished speaking, the old man raised his hand to interrupt, his tone gentle. Wu Guangyou and Li Jianhong had to calm down their impatience. After a while, after drinking a cup of tea, the old man asked, "You are in a hurry to find me, is it because Xinhan wants to buy weapons?" Hearing this, Li Jianhong of the National Defense Industry Bureau hurriedly said, "Yes, chief, the Crown Prince of Xinhan is currently visiting the shipyard in the Magic City and wants to buy several new warships from us." Li Jianhong said the model. It is not that there are no warships exported abroad, but they are all second-hand warships after the Navy retired. There has never been a single export of new warships. After listening to Li Jianhong's narration, the old man smiled and said, "It seems that our overseas compatriot is feeling the pressure. They are all smart people." Considering that the Philippines and Java are frequently claiming that Sabah and Palawan belong to the two countries, we know why New China is eager to buy weapons and equipment at this time. From the perspective of Longwa, it is natural to hope to cultivate a own person in the South China Sea. Whether it is Java or the Philippines. Or Annan, Siam, Malaysia. These are foreign races after all. Moreover, New China frequently shows goodwill to Longwei. If it does not support New China, it will be destroyed by Java and the Philippines. For Longwa, it will lose a strategic fulcrum in the South China Sea. Moreover, supporting New China can also warn the Philippines and other South China Sea countries indirectly. Moreover, New China has now discovered dyeing oil. Whether from the perspective of the nation or the country, it is necessary to support New China. The old man, who has made a decision in his heart, said with a gentle tone and a smile, "People have come all the way to visit and seek help, and we cannot let them go back disappointed. As long as the price is right, you can consider selling it. As usual, make a foreign trade model to support our compatriot in a foreign country. It is impossible to export the original version, and there are not many countries in the world, especially major countries, that will export their new warships that are officially in service. The foreign trade model is often also called the monkey version or the castrated version. That is, the weakened model. Of course, this is often a weakening of the weapon system. The warship is still the same warship, but the air defense missiles and anti-ship missiles on the warship are all foreign trade models. In the final analysis, the warship is just a launch platform. The most important thing is the weapons on board." Li Jianhong nodded and wrote down what the old man said. After getting the answer, Li Jianhong did not stay too long. The old man is very busy, and it is not easy to spare more than 10 minutes to see him. Magic City. Hadong Shipyard. Yes, right. Okay, I understand, sir. After hanging up the phone, Fang Jianhua couldn't help showing a happy expression on his face. He didn't expect that the higher-ups actually agreed to sell new warships to Xinhan. Of course, the types of weapons carried had to be weakened. But despite this, this was already rare. As for why he was happy, it was simple. The shipyard relied on orders. Whether it was domestic orders or foreign trade orders, the more orders the shipyard had, the more prosperous it could be. Taking a deep breath and suppressing the joy in his heart, Fang Jianhua convened a short emergency meeting at the shipyard, conveyed the instructions from above, and established a special negotiation team to connect with Xinhan. At this time, Xiao Yunhai in the conference room looked at the time. Almost an hour had passed. He frowned slightly. Just as he was talking, the door of the conference room was pushed open from the outside, and Fang Jianhua walked in with an apologetic look on his face. "Mr. Crown Prince, I'm sorry to have kept you waiting for so long." "I'm really sorry." Although Xiao Yunhai was a little upset because of the long wait, he did not show it at the moment. He smiled and shook his head to indicate that it was okay, and then asked directly, "How is the communication with Director Fang? Is your country willing to sell it?" "Your Highness, the 071 dock landing ship can be sold. We have an export version of the 054A frigate, which has similar performance to the one you visited today, but with some changes in weapons. In addition, the 052C destroyer is not for sale and is not for sale. If you have any needs, we can customize it according to your needs." Hearing that the 52C destroyer cannot be sold to the outside world, Xiao Weihai frowned slightly. This time, in addition to purchasing the 071 dock landing ship to enhance the new Hans Island delivery capabilities, the most important thing for him is to purchase destroyers. However, it is also good news to hear that the 054A frigate can be sold to foreign countries. In Southeast Asia, except for the little strong Lion City, the 054A frigate can actually crush other countries. Also, it can be customized, which is also good news. Director Fong, how do you sell the 054A and 071 dock landing ships? How much is one? And do you have detailed parameters for your foreign trade models? Of course. Fong Jianhua waved his hand and immediately asked someone to hand over the model information of the 054A foreign trade frigate and the 071E dock landing ship that had just been completed and reported to Yanjing to Xiao Yunhai and others. Xiao Yunhai is a half-baked military fan. He also knows a little about warships, but he is not satisfied with the configuration of the 54A foreign model. It is obviously weakened. He did not rush to talk about this issue, but asked about the price of the 071 dock landing ship. Upon hearing the question, Fong Jianhua first praised Xiao Yunhai for his good vision, and then said, if it is not modified, the current price of this dock landing ship is $130 million. Hearing that it only costs $130 million per ship, Xiao Yunhai's eyes lit up. A warship of more than 20,000 tons only costs $130 million. Isn't this good value for money? It is said that the Shelong Kingdom sold it to Siam, but it was just an empty shell without weapons. Siam bought it and installed Western weapons. Originally, he planned to sell it for $150 to $180 million per ship. Now the price is much lower than he expected. What Xiao Yunhai didn't know was that it was because the higher-ups had said that they would support Xinhan, otherwise, the export price would not be $130 million. After all, the model sold to Xinhan now is equipped with a full set of weapons and equipment. Director Fong just said that it can be customized according to needs? Yes. Fong Jianhua nodded. Well, let me tell you what we need. Hearing this, Fong Jianhua and other shipyard executives looked serious and listened carefully. First of all, we need a destroyer that can attack and defend, with both strong air defense capabilities and excellent anti-ship capabilities. In the field of air defense, it can intercept multiple targets at the same time and has the ability to search for stealth fighters. In addition, in terms of the number of vertical launches, our demand is to increase to 64, and in terms of the range of anti-ship missiles, our demand is more than 200 kilometers. Hiss. Hearing Xiao Yunhai's words, Jianhua and others took a breath. Mr. Crown Prince, your demand does not seem to be a frigate. Yes. Xiao Yunhai nodded and said, I said it is a destroyer. Our Xinhan is a small country. We cannot be equipped with both frigates and destroyers like big countries. Although I also hope that our navy can have such a warship with a clear division of labor, the national strength does not allow it, and our sea border is long, so we have to use one ship for multiple purposes. That's why I said that our warships need to be both offensive and defensive. In Xiao Yunhai's opinion, it doesn't make much sense for a small country to build a frigate. It's better to spend a lot of money to buy a destroyer. Of course, this is a small country with money. For a poor and weak small country, it can't even afford a frigate, let alone a destroyer. But now that Xinhan has discovered oil and the pharmaceutical industry is booming, with a rich family background, it naturally hopes to be able to buy a destroyer. 64 vertical launch units are actually equivalent to the Dragon country's later 052D destroyer. It may not be enough to fight against a big country, but in Southeast Asia, it will undoubtedly be invincible in the next 10 years. Besides, state procurement is not just one time. His idea is to buy some first, and then buy new ones after a few years when the Dragon Navy ships are updated and the military industry is up. For destroyers and frigates, the technology will change too fast in the next 10 years, so there is no need to buy too many at once. Hearing Xiao Yunhai's self-deprecating words, Fong Jianhua and others also suddenly realized why the other party made this request. As the other party said, small countries pay attention to one ship with multiple uses. After all, military expenditures are limited. Mr. Fong, we understand your needs. We need to study and redesign according to your needs before we can set the price. This process may take 1 to 2 months, Fong Jianhua said. According to Xiao Yunhai's plan, it is almost a redesign of a warship. Of course, it cannot be said to be a redesign. The existing ship type can be lengthened, such as lengthening the 054A frigate, or modifying the 052C destroyer. Yes, but I hope the time can be faster. Xiao Yunhai also knew that it would take more than a day or two to make changes according to the requirements, but as the situation became increasingly tense, he still hoped to speed up. And once the plan was finalized, he hoped that the north and south shipyards of Longhua could start construction at the same time, shortening the construction period of a warship to 3 to 4 months. The main reason was that the Xinhan Navy was really lame at the moment. But we could still wait for a few months. After talking about the destroyer, the topic turned to submarines. That is the export version of the 039B, which has the same appearance, but with some different weapons and equipment inside. It also uses Longhua's AIP system and can launch the export version of Longhua's YJ-83 anti-ship missiles. The price is not cheap, up to 3.2 per ship, which is $30 million more expensive than the Prussian 209-1400 submarine. Xiao Yunhai chose Longhua. One is to strengthen the military cooperation between the two countries, and the other is to establish a system for the Navy, which is the Dragon system. If it is like the White Elephant, Siam and Sand Camel, they just buy the weapons that are good, and they cannot form a system at all. The combat system alone is estimated to be a mess when the war starts. So in order to avoid this situation, and based on the future development potential of the Dragon Kingdom, he chose to equip the Navy with all the Dragon Kingdom warships, so that it will be convenient to upgrade in the future. As for the Air Force, he plans to form a system of his own. At least the fighter jets will not be purchased from other countries. In modern warfare, the Air Force is particularly important. Xiao Yunhai does not want to be controlled by others, so Xinhan can only develop it by itself, and with the help of the system, promote Xinhan to quickly become a country that can independently produce fighter jets, even early warning aircraft and electronic warfare aircraft. We want 4 Type 039B export submarines. We want 8 Type 071 dock landing ships, no, 10. One ship costs only $130 million. It's such a cheap price. If Xiao Yunhai doesn't buy more ships, he will feel that he is at a disadvantage. You know, this is a warship of more than 20,000 tons. Fang Jianhua's eyes lit up when he heard that Xinhan was going to purchase 4 submarines and 10 dock landing ships. This is a big order. The price of 4 submarines is $1.68 billion, plus 10 dock landing ships, $1.3 billion. The total order is as high as $3 billion. Such a large order is already the largest order they have ever received. Sure enough, it is worthy of being a rich country that produces oil. This is a different kind of bow. Just like the legendary Middle Eastern dog Tycoon. It's really G rich. And destroyers will be purchased later. Thinking of this, Fang Jianhua was like a chicken blood, and his whole body was excited. P.S. It's too miserable, let alone 250 subscriptions, not even 150. Episode 56. Purchase of Dragon State stealth missile boats, finalizing cooperation between the two parties. That's right. Director Fang, you are unwilling to sell your active destroyers and frigates. Then your retired 0-22 missile boats, should you be able to sell them? And there are so many of them, I don't want more, just sell us 10 of them, how about that? Before leaving, Xiao Yunhai suddenly thought of a way to quickly strengthen the Navy. That is to buy missile boats from Longhua. Buying old frigates and destroyers is too expensive, the gold content is not great, and they are not willing to sell them. After all, their new warships have not been mass-produced and they still need warships to support the scene. Missile boats are different. Longhua has already sealed this thing, and since it is sealed, it means that as long as the relationship is right and the price is right, it is possible to sell it. For this kind of short and capable missile boat, spend some money and buy 10 of them to deal with the Philippine monkeys and deter Java. Xiao Yunhai thinks it is useful. After all, the Type 022 missile boat is equipped with 8 YJ-83 anti-ship missiles, 1 30mm 6-barrel rapid-fire gun, and 2 quadruple rocket launchers. Not only is it equipped with enough weapons, but it is not fast. The maximum speed can reach 50 knots, which is perfect for operations in the Sulu Sea and Celebes Sea. Fang Jianhua apologized, Mr. Crown Prince, this warship and service is under the management of the Navy, not our shipyard, and my words have no say. I know. Xiao Yunhai said, I'm telling you because I hope you can talk to the relevant leaders of your country. Or, I place an order at your shipyard and it's okay if 10 ships can be delivered in 2 months. After a pause, Xiao Yunhai continued, I know that your side is a little embarrassed, but there is nothing we can do about it. The situation around our country is indeed quite tense, and we urgently need a batch of ships to strengthen the Navy and defend our country. Having said this, what else can Fang Jianhua say? He can only say that he will report these words to the relevant leaders as soon as possible. As for whether they can be sold, it is not up to him. As for placing an order, he can guarantee that 10 ships will be delivered within 2 months. Of course, the premise is that there are no major changes. If the hull is lengthened and more weapons are installed, it will definitely not work. After sending Xiao Yunhai away, Fang Jianhua reported to his superiors as soon as possible. I learned that Xinhan actually wanted to buy the 022 missile boat. At the same time, it is understandable. Missile boats are not favored by the Dragon Navy now, but for a small country like Xinhan, practicality is often 47 strong. Sell. After the old man spoke, the National Defense Industry Bureau contacted the Navy to discuss the export of missile boats. The Navy naturally disagreed. Although they looked down on it and had better and more advanced warships, no one would complain about having too many weapons, not to mention that the combat effectiveness of the 022 missile boat was not weak, and it was very suitable to deal with Taiwan. After all, the YJ-83 anti-ship missile had a range of 150 kilometers. However, when he learned that Shinhan was willing to buy it at a price of $40 million per ship, and only bought 10 ships, the Navy's Milo agreed. First, the number of purchases was not large. Second, the price was in place. Third, after the sale, their Navy contributed $400 million in foreign exchange, and then they had more reason to ask for more military expenses. The news soon reached Xiao Yunhai's ears. Mr. Crown Prince, I have good news for you. You want a 0-22 missile boat. The superiors have agreed to sell 10 of them to Fong. Fong Jianhuo said on the phone. Really? That's great. Xiao Yunhai looked very happy. With these 10 stealth missile boats, the strength of the new Han Navy can be rapidly enhanced. Thank you, Director Fong. I know you must have put in a lot of effort in this matter, otherwise there would not be such a quick result. Xiao Yunhai thanked him on the phone. Mr. Crown Prince, you are too polite. I didn't put in much effort. This matter was successful because of my superiors. I just conveyed the message and dare not take credit for it. Fong Jianhuo said with a smile. I was still very happy in my heart. I secretly thought that they were worthy of being Chinese people. They spoke differently. They were not like those people like Baba Yang in Siam. They sold weapons as if they owed him. Anyway, I have to thank you for this matter. The two exchanged a few polite words and hung up the phone. Your Highness, is there any good news? Seeing Xiao Yunhai's happy expression, Wang Wenchuan, Deputy Commander of the Navy, Gao Yuyang, Deputy Chief of Staff of Operations, and others in the presidential suite of the hotel looked at him curiously. Well, it is indeed good news. I just received a call. Longhua has agreed to sell us 10 022 stealth missile boats at a price of $40 million each. With these 10 boats, you can be tougher when dealing with the navies of the Philippines and Java in the future. Xiao Yunhai said happily. After the voice fell, Wang Wenyuan and Gao Yuyang were stunned for a moment, and then showed a great look. The two had led the Navy to conduct joint military exercises with the Longhua Navy, and knew a thing or two about Longhua's 022 stealth missile boats. Although the tonnage is small, the firepower is strong, short and powerful, and it is called bomb airship. Great, with these 10 missile boats joining, let's see how arrogant those Philippine monkeys are, Wang Wenyuan said excitedly. The other people also showed joy on their faces. As a naval commander, who doesn't want more naval ships? No matter whether it is a large warship or a small boat, the more the better. Your Highness, when will Longhua deliver these 10 missile boats? Why? Can't wait? Well, I can't wait to take these 10 missile boats back to our Shinhan. Don't worry, since they agree to sell, I believe it won't take 10 days or half a month for these 10 missile boats to be in your Navy's hands. Xiao Yunhai put away the smile on his face, and his expression suddenly became serious. I will get you all kinds of weapons, but don't think you can be careless with advanced weapons. You must know that we are dealing with the Philippines, Java, Malaysia, and even Annan in the future, which are populous countries in Southeast Asia. Whether it is the territory, population, or national strength, they are stronger than us. Located in a place where 4 wars are fought, your Navy cannot be careless and must keep up with the combat effectiveness. Wang Wenyuan, Gao Yuyang, and others looked solemn when they heard this. They said in unison, please rest assured, Your Highness, our Navy will never let down your expectations, let alone the trust of the people of the country. We will take strengthening the army as our responsibility and build a strong sea force that dares to fight and fight hard battles. Xiao Yunhai nodded with satisfaction. The equipment of the Shinhan Navy is not very good, but it does not mean that the fighting will is poor. It can only be said that the Navy's equipment is too expensive. The Shinhan national strength is weak and cannot be equipped with good weapons, but the fighting will is much stronger than that of the Philippines and Annan. In the 1960s, a maritime conflict broke out between Singapore and the Philippines. They fought with bayonets at sea, and a patrol boat directly rammed and sank a small Philippine frigate. This fearless spirit frightened the Philippine Navy at that time. In the 1980s, a maritime dispute and conflict broke out with Java near Tarakan Island. The 2 patrol boats of Shinhan did not lose to several thousand-ton warships of Java. Even if they were sunk in the end, they still sank 10,000-ton warships of Java. So, you can say that the weapons of the Shinhan Navy are poor, but the combat effectiveness is unquestionable. After staying in the Magic City for 2 days, Xiao Yunhai and his party set off for Yanjing. They will formally hold talks with the Dragon Country. That afternoon, they met with the old man of Zijin Mountain. The two sides had friendly communication in the solemn and magnificent conference hall and reached a number of cooperation. For example, infrastructure cooperation to improve the transportation of Xinhan. There is also the proposal of a Ring Island Railway. The so-called Ring Island Railway starts from Yunzhong County, Qinghai Province, along the coastal areas such as Sichuan and Jiangdu, to Guangling Province. The border county of Haining is the endpoint, and then, SIF, Haining is used to build a railway along the border counties with Java and Malaysia to achieve a closed loop. Its purpose is to increase the transportation network in Xinhan to facilitate people's travel and freight logistics. Before this, Xinhan did not have a railway. The main means of transportation are actually road and sea transportation. As for airports, there are only 9 civil airports in use in the country, and not everyone can afford to take a plane. In addition, the terrain of Xinhan is mostly mountainous and high mountains in the middle, and the surrounding coastal areas are flat hills and plains. From Linmeng in Qinghai Province to Haining County in Guangling, the straight line distance is less than 300 kilometers, but it takes 5 or 6 days to travel between the two places. Reason it is because the territory is full of high mountains and dense forests. Nowadays, if we can build a railway for both freight and passengers, it does not need to be 350 km per hour, and 200 km per hour is already very good, so that it is convenient for trade between the two places. It can also facilitate the development of commuting and tourism. The most important thing is that the construction of the railway can quickly deploy troops. It can quickly transfer troops scattered across the country to border areas. This greatly enhances the flexibility of military operations. However, this is just a general intention, and it is still a long way to go before the investment and construction are implemented. The main problem is funding. It will take at least 30 to 40 billion US dollars to build such a railway with a total length of more than 1,000 kilometers. Although it will not be immediately repaired, but the preliminary exploration work can still be carried out first. That night, Xiao Yunhai and his party were invited to attend the dinner arranged by Longhua State Banquet Standard. The venue was at Xiao Yunhai State Guesthouse. In addition to the government, there were also some business celebrities who were invited to promote business exchanges between the two countries. But more importantly, Xinhan invited entrepreneurs from Longwei to invest. For example, it invited Hisense, TCL and other electronic companies to invest and build factories in Xinhan. At this time, there are still few companies in Longhua that can be shown off, but it will be different in a few years. The next day, at the invitation of the Yanjing municipal government, Xiao Yunhai visited famous Yanjing companies, such as Yanqi, Jingdong, Lianxiang, Chengdu and other companies. Not very meaningful. Except for Lianxiang, which has a large overseas business, the rest are just fighting among themselves. In the next 10 years, they will not enter the overseas market in a big way. Moreover, in terms of automobiles, Xiao Yunhai has already decided to do it himself, so he will naturally not invite Yanqi. It is okay to visit. When Xinhan launches black gold batteries in the future, they can also be used in cars produced by Yanqi. That night, Xiao Yunhai met with Li Yi, CEO of Oasis Investment, in the hotel. He learned in detail about Oasis's investment during this period. Li Yi took out the documents that had been prepared long ago and handed them to Xiao Yunhai, saying, "Your Highness, these are the corporate projects invested by our Oasis in the past year. The other two at the end are all our current investment companies in Oasis." Hearing this, Xiao Yunhai nodded and looked at it carefully. Jingdong already holds 43.96% of the shares, undoubtedly the largest shareholder. Following closely, Weibo's shareholding ratio dropped to 37.2%. Weibo has already started the round of financing, and there is no follow-up investment in this round. Xinlong specially found another venture capital company, in addition to financing, just to dilute the shares held by Oasis. It's human nature, not surprising. Eli.me holds 45%, Meituan holds 20%, Mafengwo holds 32%, Renren holds 22.3%, Huya, also known as Duowan, holds 25%, 58 Tongcheng holds 18.6%. Abroad, Apple holds 3.5%, Twitter holds 36.8%, WhatsApp holds 45%, Gaopeng holds 27.3%, Uber holds 22.6%. In general, they are all betting on some emerging internet application companies. Some companies still have good growth potential. He scanned the company's holding shares, and after a moment of silence, he said to Li Yi, "Write this down. After Renren goes public, look for opportunities to sell all when you can sell them. Also, for 58 Tongcheng, as long as the valuation is not outrageous in the next round, continue to invest, and the same is true for Magnesium Group." The reason why Li Yi sold Renren after it went public is very simple. With the advent of the mobile internet era, social networking sites like Renren will inevitably be eliminated, and even the originator of plagiarism, Facebook, will be in decline. If Facebook had not acquired apps such as Instagram and WhatsApp, it would have retreated in the mobile internet era. So after going public, as long as the 6-month ban period is lifted, cash out immediately. At this time, Renren is also at its highest market value, so cashing out is cost-effective. In addition, has the Royal Investment Bureau invested in Xiandu? Li Yu was stunned, frowned and thought for a while, then nodded. It has indeed invested in Xiandu, and it is the largest shareholder of Xiandu. Dell. Xiao Yunhai nodded, looking at Lin now beside him and said, after returning to Xinhan, remember to remind me to make an appointment with the head of the Royal Investment Bureau and remind me to let the Investment Bureau sell the shares. Yes. Lin Na replied respectfully. The reason for selling Xiandu is very simple, and it is not worth holding it anymore. It is better to invest in Xinjiang internet companies with greater returns after the package, such as increasing holdings of Apple, Google, Micron, and other companies. The rate of return is higher. After staying in Longguo for 5 days, Xiao Yunhai returned to Xinhan as planned. 0143091228 Feilu 1512835511. During this period, he received messages from Demimi, Lu Tianxian, and Lu Shishir. Xiao Yunhai did not go to see them, mainly because it was inconvenient and they were all public figures. Episode 57. A large destroyer for only $600 million? Buy $10 billion for military purchases. Back to Xinhan. That night, Xiao Yunhai reported his gains from the trip to Longguo to his father. He learned that a new model of Longguo's 071 landing ship only cost $130 million. Xiao Hongjing exclaimed in disbelief. Isn't this price too cheap? Will Longguo sell it to us at a loss? Xiao Yunhai's mouth twitched, and he said unhappily, Dad, you think too much. How could they sell it to us at a loss? It should be said that they didn't make much money. I don't think that our relationship with Longguo is so good that they didn't lose money to us. But, a landing ship of more than 20,000 tons sold for $130 million, don't you think it's cheap? I seem to remember that the US landing ship costs $1 billion. Xiao Hongjing still found it a little unbelievable. The price difference is almost 10 times. Xiao Yunhai patiently explained, that's different. The Americans are pitting themselves. Have you ever seen a kettle that costs $2,000? Well, you did a good job this time. Hearing his son say this, he was no longer shocked and smiled. It can make Longguo willing to sell the latest landing ships, submarines, and missile boats. With these weapons, the pressure on the Navy can be reduced a lot. Xiao Yunhai shook his head. Why, am I wrong? Looking at his son shaking his head, Xiao Hongjing looked puzzled. With the warships, it will take some time to form combat effectiveness, but generally speaking, with these warships, the Philippines and Java will be more afraid. In addition, Dad, I think it is necessary to expand the Navy and the Army. The current combat personnel of the Navy and the Army are not enough to cope with the increasingly heated regional situation. Xiao Hongjing nodded. Well, you are right, it is necessary to expand the Army. Apart from anything else, just the large number of warships purchased here also need people to use them. After a pause, Xiao Hongjing looked at Xiao Yunhai with a smile. Since you propose to expand the Army, tell me how you plan to expand the Army? Xiao Yunhai heard this and did not be polite. He said his own thoughts. The Navy currently has 10,000 people, and it should be expanded by another 10,000, which should be able to meet our current needs. The pressure on the Army mainly comes from Java and Malaysia. The Army currently has 55,000 people, excluding the Royal Guards, and 9 brigades. If it is expanded by 20,000 people and formed into 4 rapid response brigades, it should be enough. It is said that the focus is on protecting Malaysia, but in fact, the real enemy of the Army is still Java. The military strength of Nuhan is not far behind that of Malaysia, but Malaysia is in the Malay Peninsula and has a territorial dispute with Siam over the 3 southern prefectures, and Malaysia also has to guard against Java, so the real threat to Nuhan is very limited. Java is different. Relying on its large population and large size, it has more than 300,000 standing troops. The Army alone has 280,000. The number of troops that can be mobilized is as high as millions. This is far from what Nuhan, which has a population of only more than 17 million, can compare to. Moreover, Java is ambitious and has always wanted to build a big Java country and become the hegemon of Southeast Asia. Therefore, Java is still the most threatening. Expand 20,000 people for mobile forces. In this way, whether there is any movement in Java, or in the Philippines or Malaysia, reinforcements can be quickly provided. Rapid reaction force? What does it mean? Is it a mechanized armored force? Xiao Yunhai explained, it should be said that it is an upgraded version of the light armored division, with transport planes and transport helicopters, to quickly deliver personnel and equipment to the front line. Hearing that transport planes and transport helicopters were needed, Xiao Hongjing frowned and said, according to your idea, I'm afraid it will cost a lot of money. Dad, don't worry about the problem of weapons and equipment. The most urgent thing is to recruit soldiers first and get the organization and personnel structure up. As for equipment, it's easier to solve. Seeing that his son said so, what can he say? Just do as you say. This time the army will expand by 20,000 and the navy will expand by 10,000. By the way, does the Air Force need to be expanded? Xiao Yunhai shook his head. Dad, the Air Force is a technical branch. It is not easy to train a qualified fighter pilot in a short time. Let me handle the Air Force. Hearing this, Xiao Hongjing nodded and said with a smile, speaking of the Air Force, I heard that you set up an aircraft manufacturing company? What? Are you going to build a fighter? I have this idea. Xiao Yunhai nodded and admitted, I thought about it. We can't always buy from abroad in Xinhan. We must have our own military industry system, so that when we really fight in the future, we don't have to worry about not having weapons. That's right, even if you want to do military industry, you can start with simple ones. There is no need to waste money to make fighters. This fighter is not so easy to make. There are only a few countries in the world that can produce fighters. What's more, we in Xinhan had no experience before. It is almost impossible to build our own fighters. Xiao Hongjing shook his head and was not optimistic about making fighters by ourselves. In his opinion, fighter research and development is a weapon that can only be developed by big countries. And Xinhan is just a small country. How can we develop fighters without any experience? In this regard, Xiao Yunhai revealed some information to make his father happy and get his support. After all, it will be equipped in the Air Force on a large scale in the future. Dad, actually, my aircraft manufacturing company has made good breakthroughs in some aspects. Breakthrough? What breakthrough? Could it be that you have developed an aircraft engine? That's not the case. I said, it's not that easy to build an aircraft. Xiao Hongjing chuckled. Although the aircraft engine was not built, the air-to-air missile was developed, and several models were iterated. Xiao Yunhai said lightly. What? Xiao Hongjing widened his eyes, stuttered, and looked incredible. You said that your company has developed an air-to-air missile? Dell. You didn't lie to me? Xiao Yunhai rolled his eyes unhappily. Why would I lie to you? Where are you going? Xiao Hongjing excitedly took his hand and walked out. Go? Where to? Let's go to your company. Didn't you say you developed an air-to-air missile? Let's go and take a look. Xiao Hongjing said excitedly. Dad, what time is it now? Xiao Yunhai didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It's so late, what are you going to see in the dark? If you want to go tomorrow morning. This instantly woke up Xiao Hongjing, whose mind was full of air-to-air missiles. Looking at the sky outside, yes, it was already past 10 o'clock. Son, your company really developed an air-to-air missile? You really didn't lie to me? Looking at his father's doubtful and unacceptable look, Xiao Yunhai was speechless. Dad, I've said it all, I didn't lie to you, it's true. Not only has the air-to-air missile made a breakthrough, but the engine has also made a small breakthrough. What? The engine has also made a breakthrough? Xiao Hongjing exclaimed. Well, we bought the Gripen fighter, and my people have conducted reverse research and development based on the Gripen fighter, and have made some progress so far. Hearing that they were reverse developing the engine of the Gripen fighter, Xiao Hongjing felt that it was not so difficult to accept. After all, Longhua had reverse developed many weapons. Developing according to the target is much simpler than doing nothing. That's already very good. Where did you find this person? Did you poach Longhua's aviation technology experts? Xiao Hongjing joked. Xiao Yunhai rolled his eyes. Do you think it's possible? Xiao Hongjing knew it was impossible. Experts in the aviation field are the treasures of a country, how could they be poached easily? It's not the time for Su Xiong to disintegrate. Where did you get the technical experts for your R&D team? Xiao Hongjing was a little curious. Where did you get them? Of course, they got them from the system Goldfinger. Of course, I can't say this. If I really say it, I might be regarded as a lunatic. Sitting down on the sofa, raising his hand to pick up a piece of orange next to him, Xiao Yunhai peeled it and said, Dad, don't ask this, you just need to know that these people will be our Xinhan's treasures in the future. Okay, if you don't want to say it, then don't say it. Seeing that his son was unwilling to say it, Xiao Hongjing didn't force it. He also sat on the sofa and warned Xiao Yunhai, Son, you have to keep an eye on these people. These are our Xinhan's treasures. If we can really develop our own fighter jets, you will have made great contributions to our Xinhan. At the end, his face could no longer hide the joy in his heart. Dad, don't worry, I know what's going on. Xiao Yunhai responded casually. Come, tell me about the development progress of your aircraft manufacturing company. Xiao Hongjing couldn't hold back his curiosity and wanted to know the progress of the aircraft manufacturing company. It's no wonder that he did this. If he really developed a fighter jet. No. even if he developed an engine independently. Then Xinhan can stand up straight and say that it is a powerful country in the aviation industry. After all, the number of countries in the world that can develop aircraft engines can be counted on one hand. How could Xiao Yunhai accompany him to say so much? After all, he himself didn't know. He bluffed a few words and found an excuse to slip away. Of course. The next morning, he was woken up by his father. He had to take him to see the aircraft manufacturing company. There was no way, because he was his father. He took a car to the Military Research Institute. He took his father to visit. Seeing is believing. When Xiao Hongjing saw the mechanical swing arm and hundreds of technical workers busy in the workshop, especially when he saw something like an aircraft engine, he was completely convinced that his son's aircraft manufacturing company could really build aircraft engines and even fighter jets. At this moment, he could no longer express his inner joy in words. After visiting the Military Research Institute for a full half-day, Xiao Yunhai sent his satisfied father away. A week later. That is, on April 19th. Longhua sent someone to discuss military trade. Someone from Hudong shipyard also came, none other than Fang Jianlu. Non-technical personnel, generally senior technical engineers, will not be easily allowed to go abroad. Meeting room. Your Highness, we meet again. Director Fang, welcome to Xinhan. Xiao Yunhai extended his hand and shook hands with a smile. After exchanging pleasantries, Fang Jianluo took out a design drawing. Your Highness, this is a new type of destroyer designed by our shipyard according to your country's needs. Please take a look. The vertical launch unit adopts the layout of 32 in the front and 32 in the middle. A 76mm naval gun and two 6-tube anti-submarine rocket launchers are installed at the bow. In addition, in the middle area of the ship, in addition to the vertical launch, there is a close-in rapid-fire gun on each side, and torpedoes can be launched after the hatches on the left and right sides are opened. In addition, a 24-unit short-range ship-to-air missile and jammer launcher is installed in the tail area, and 2 helicopters can be parked at the tail. In terms of radar, looking at the design in front of him, Xiao Yunhai felt that it was very similar to the 052D missile destroyer he had seen in his previous life, but with stronger firepower. Not bad, the displacement should be about 5 or 6,000 tons, right? Not bad, the full load of Xiang crystal is actually nearly 7,000 tons. Not bad, but the 76mm gun is a bit too weak, and the helicopter parking area at the rear is a bit short. It should be extended to park a large helicopter. Hearing this, Fang Jianluo said, if your highness feels that the 76mm gun is a bit weak, you can replace it with a 100mm gun, and the rear deck can also be lengthened. Well, if it is improved according to the requirements I just mentioned, how much does it cost per ship? Xiao Yunhai closed the drawing and asked directly about the price. Wait a moment. Fang Jianluo pulled the team to recalculate the modification cost. The modification was not big, just replacing the price of the gun and lengthening the rear, so the price came out soon. Your Highness, the price of each ship is $680 million according to your requirements. The price in 2010 cannot be compared with the price after 2019 and 2020. Does it include ammunition, training support, and spare parts supply? Yes, it is included in the disease. Looking at the weapon parameters on the drawing again, Xiao Yunhai felt that it was almost done. Although the weapons were weakened models for foreign trade, they were not much different. Take the anti-ship cruise missile, which is equipped with the YJ-18 foreign trade model, with a range of 290 kilometers, which fully meets the needs of Xinhan. There is no problem with the price. But I hope to introduce a production line. We plan to purchase 10 ships, the first 6 will be produced in your country, and the last 4, I hope to be able to produce them here in Xinhan. The same is true for the dock landing ship, the last 4 will be produced in Xinhan. Xiao Yunhai closed the document and said to Fang Jianluo and other representatives of Longhua with a serious face. Hearing that they wanted to buy 4 ships, Fang Jianluo and others took a breath. They expected that it would be good for Xinhan to buy 4 ships. Unexpectedly, the other party actually wanted 10 ships. One ship costs $680 million. 10 ships means $6.8 billion. Including the 10 landing ships, 10 missile boats and 4 submarines planned to be purchased before, the total order has reached $10.4 billion. Does Xinhan have so much military expenditure every year? The military expenditure is not that much. But Xiao Yunhai has money. He runs a pharmaceutical company. He can make a net profit of $20 to $30 billion every year. There is also oil income. In a word, the government has no money, but the royal family has money. Coincidentally, the royal family is willing to spend money for the country and forge a sharp sword for the country. Episode 58. International hot discussion, disguise, and show goodwill to the United States. 2 days later. The two parties formally signed the contract. The total amount of the order is 10.4 billion US dollars. According to the agreement, before the start of construction, the 10.4 billion US dollars will be paid in 2 installments over 3 years. The first installment is 4 billion US dollars. The second installment will be paid in the year after, that is, in mid-2012. And Longwa needs to complete the delivery within 3 years. And before the end of this year, 4 destroyers, 4 dock landing ships, and 2 submarines need to be delivered. As for the missile boats, because they are ready-made and bought secondhand, they will be delivered within a week after the contract is signed. In addition, the two countries will strengthen military exchanges and conduct regular joint military training in March every year, codenamed Longhan, after the contract was signed. The official media of the two countries released relevant news information on the same day. Today, the Ministry of National Defense announced that in order to further complete the modernization of the army, strengthen the army, defend the country, and protect the people, our country recently signed a military weapons order of 10.4 billion US dollars with Longwa and will purchase 10 destroyers, 10 dock landing ships and multiple submarines from Longwa. This news quickly fermented on the Xinhan internet, causing a discussion among netizens. Isn't this government too rich? Didn't they say that the military expenditure this year is only 20 billion Han yuan? According to the exchange rate, it is only 6.8 billion US dollars? The people above are stupid. Such a large order must not be paid in one lump sum. Usually, it will be paid in 2 or 3 installments. Okay, the military has changed its mind this time? It is willing to spend so much money on the Navy. It's a complete waste. Why buy Longwa's weapons? Can Longwa's weapons be shown off? If you want to buy, you should buy European and American weapons. Yes, this money is wasted. Longwa has no weapons that can be shown off. Seeing a lot of criticism that the military should not buy Longwa's weapons, many netizens who have a certain understanding of Longwa's military weapons have refuted. Who doesn't want to buy good weapons? Think about it, you can buy 20 warships and several submarines for 10.4 billion US dollars? That's right, you only say that European and American weapons are good, but you don't think about the price of their warships. It is said that a dock landing ship costs 1 billion US dollars. This is the price for the US military to use. If it is sold, wouldn't it be more? I think Longwa's weapons are very good quality and low price. Although they are not very advanced, they are cheaper. For our country, we need to form a scale in a short time. On the Xinhan internet, this military purchase presents 2 different views. If it were placed after 2018, there would not be so many debates. At present, Longwa has not yet completely risen, and its military industry is in the eyes of many people. It is of average level or behind Europe and the United States. Not to mention Xinhan, even the people of Longwa think so. Compared with the debate in Xinhan, there is a festive atmosphere on the Longwa internet. This unprecedented, billion-dollar military sales order is undoubtedly the largest military sales order in Longwa's history. This makes Longwa netizens, who have long been dissatisfied with Longwa's foreign military sales results, as if they were injected with chicken blood and extremely excited. Hadong Shipyard is too powerful to be able to win a billion-dollar order. Damn, is Xinhan so rich? I used to think that only the oil-producing countries in the Middle East were rich and rich. Today, I saw that there are countries in Southeast Asia that are richer than the oil-producing countries in the Middle East. Billion-dollar military sales orders. I remember that the total amount of US military sales orders last year was more than 20 billion US dollars, right? So, we have become the world's second largest arms exporter this year? 20 warships and several submarines, the unit price is not low, about 300 to 400 million US dollars per ship. I'm afraid the shipyard is running at full capacity 24 hours a day. The news fermented on the internet in both countries, and then spread to all parts of the world, causing heated discussions in the media of various countries. 10.4 billion US dollars, let alone now, even in 10 years, it is still a noteworthy amount. After the news spread, it first caused heated discussions on the internet in Southeast Asian countries. YouTube, as a global internet video website, has gathered more than 1 billion netizens around the world. It has therefore become one of the main platforms for international communication. A Filipino netizen commented, "What's the use of buying more warships? The quality of Longwa's warships is too poor, just like wooden boats, they will capsize when hit." That's right, Longwa's weapons and equipment are as poor in quality as their motorcycles. They will rust and leak in less than 2 years. Xinhan is really a big complainer, actually buying Longwa's warships. Many people ridiculed and laughed at the big complainer of New Han. After all, Dragon Country's products are synonymous with poor quality now. However, there are also rational people who expressed their concerns. What does New Han want to do? Buying so many warships in one go is to provoke tension in the regional situation. Yes, this is completely exacerbating the regional arms race. Humph, no matter how many warships New Han buys, our country is not afraid. It's just a paper tiger. No need to worry. I advise New Han to be careful. If you don't return our islands such as Palawan, we will destroy you sooner or later. Yes, and return our territory in northern Kalimantan, otherwise my Java country will march north and slaughter you. Come on, what the hell, a bunch of garbage, it's not like you haven't fought before, are you going to leave in disgrace? New Han netizens were not polite and directly angrily retorted. Humph, that was in the past, do you think it's still the 1970s and 1980s? Don't be complacent, just wait and see, we Java will take back Sabah sooner or later. Java monkeys get out, that belongs to our Philippines, Philippines, that belongs to our Malaysia. Netizens can only watch the fun, complain and argue, but for other governments, the perspective of looking at the problem is different. The Philippine monkey government immediately criticized New Han for conducting large-scale maritime military exercises in the waters near Palawan. Java criticized New Han for purchasing weapons to exacerbate regional tensions and has no intention of easing the regional situation. Lion City, which is on good terms with both sides, also expressed its views and said that it does not want New Han to disrupt the tension in Southeast Asia. Even Annan monkeys jumped out and criticized. As for Siam, Gaojin and other countries, most of them kept silent about this issue. Without any conflict of interest, they naturally do not want to take sides. It is understandable that regional countries expressed concerns, but countries outside the region, such as the United States, Britain, Gaul and other countries, have also expressed their concern about this matter. New Han. Your Highness, the U.S. ambassador to our country wants to meet. That day, Xiao Yunhai had just finished a meeting with the Royal Administration Bureau when he heard Lin Na walk in to report. The U.S. ambassador? Xiao Yunhai was slightly stunned, and then he thought of something. In all likelihood, it was about the military sales order. After thinking for a while, Xiao Yunhai nodded and agreed to meet him. Take him to the conference room, I'll come over later. Yes. Lin Na bowed and replied, then turned and left. Xiao Yunhai leaned back, his expression relaxed. The reason why he agreed to meet the U.S. ambassador was mainly because he didn't want to make the relationship with the U.S. stiff at this time. The way for a small country to survive is to remain neutral. Not to favor any party. If you favor one party, you will inevitably be suppressed by the other party. So it's best not to take sides and welcome everyone. Just like Lion City, you can get along with both sides. The United States is the only superpower at present and the world's largest economy. Compared with it, Singapore is not much better than an ant compared to an elephant. It's not advisable to make enemies. Thinking of this, Xiao Yunhai planned to meet first and see what the other party would do. Thinking of this, he felt much better instantly. After deliberately standing still for more than 10 minutes, Xiao Yunhai slowly walked towards the conference room. Conference room. Seeing Xiao Yunhai slowly walking over, Lin and others hurriedly bowed. Your Highness. The U.S. ambassador to Xinhan is Richard, a foreigner who is proficient in Chinese. Seeing the movements of Lin Na and others, and seeing someone coming outside the door, he instantly realized that the real owner had come, so he stood up. Hello, is this Ambassador Richard? Hello, nice to meet you. Xiao Yunhai extended his hand enthusiastically and greeted. Sorry, I just dealt with some urgent matters and kept you waiting for a long time. Please forgive me, Mr. Bien. Although Richard is proficient in Chinese, he is not proficient in the ways of the world. The same words mean different things when spoken in different places and by different people. Seeing Xiao Yunhai's enthusiastic and apologetic expression, I really thought Xiao Yunhai was apologetic in his heart. Smiling and shaking hands, Your Highness the Crown Prince, I am also very happy to meet you. Sit down. Mr. Ambassador, please sit down. Xiao Yunhai raised his hand to signal Richard to take a seat. What would Mr. Ambassador like to drink? Coffee or tea? Coffee, I like American coffee without sugar. Okay. Xiao Yunhai instructed Lin Na, Secretary Lin, make Mr. Ambassador a cup of American coffee. Yes. Lin Na responded respectfully, and then went to tinker with coffee. Ambassador, is there anything important that has brought you here? Xiao Yunhai asked with a smile, pretending not to know Richard's intention. Hearing this, Richard sat up straight, his face serious. Your Highness, I heard that your country plans to purchase a batch of warships from Longwa? Is it true? Yes, it is true. Xiao Yunhai nodded in agreement. This matter cannot be concealed at all. In fact, if your country wants to buy weapons and equipment, you can consider our country. Our weapons are more advanced. To be honest, Longwa's weapons are too poor in both quality and performance. It's just to deceive some countries that don't know the inside story. Xiao Yunhai nodded in agreement. I also know that Longwa's weapons are not very good, but there is no way. I also want to buy your warships. Your country hasn't built warships for many years. I'm also afraid that your country won't produce them, so I went to Longwei to buy them. Blinking, Xiao Yunhai said, why? Can your shipyard accept orders? Seeing that Xiao Yunhai's attitude was inclined towards the United States, Richard was in a good mood. Of course I will accept orders. Then how much does a dock landing ship cost in your country? Can one be bought for 130 million US dollars? That's impossible. Although Richard is not a soldier, he knows that some US warships cannot be worth more than 100 million US dollars. Xiao Yunhai showed disappointment. Mr. Ambassador, it's not that I don't want to purchase your warships, it's really that your warships are too high-end and too expensive for a small country like us. We can't afford them. You also know that the military expenditure of a small country is limited. They would like to use $1 as 2 or 3 US dollars. Therefore, when purchasing weapons, they consider cost-effectiveness more. If your warships can also cost 130 million, no, even if it is 200 million US dollars per ship, I am willing to purchase your warships. Looking at Xiao Yunhai's sincere face, Richard's mouth moved, but he didn't know what to say. The other party's attitude is so good. They are willing to increase the price based on Longwa. What can he say? Originally, he had a lot of words to say before coming, and even prepared threats, but he met Xiao Yunhai, a soft knife, just like a fist hitting cotton, making it difficult for him to say threatening words. After all, the other party has a good attitude and is sincere. It's not that I don't want to buy your warships, but your warships are too expensive. Seeing Richard being humiliated, Xiao Yunhai felt that it was enough and it was not appropriate to embarrass him too much. So, he said, in fact, our country also plans to purchase a batch of helicopters and plans to bid for them. Helicopters? Your Highness the Crown Prince can buy our helicopters. Our helicopters are world-class. Richard said hurriedly. If we can't grab the warship orders, we can't let the helicopter orders be snatched by Longwa, the Bear, or even those guys in Europe. Well, your country's helicopters are indeed first class. I originally wanted to purchase your Black Hawk general-purpose helicopters, but Mr. Ambassador also knows that military generals have different opinions. Some people think that the helicopters of the Russian Bear are more powerful. Although I am the Crown Prince, I still have to respect the military's ideas. I personally hope to reach a cooperation with your country. Purchase Black Hawk general-purpose helicopters and some anti-submarine aircraft. Therefore, I said that I would like to bid externally. I believe that as long as the price of your helicopters is not much more expensive than that of the Russian Bear, the military will definitely choose your helicopters. Give a slap and a sweet date. Xiao Yunhai plans to purchase some US military Black Hawk helicopters to enhance the Army's delivery capabilities, and the warships purchased also need helicopters and anti-submarine aircraft. Moreover, buying weapons is also a potential way to show goodwill to the United States and enhance the United States' trust in New China. At least in the next few years, Xiao Yunhai does not want to have a bad relationship with the United States. After all, the royal family still has assets of 200 or 300 billion US dollars in the United States. Once the conflict really breaks out, if these assets are confiscated directly, New China will suffer a great loss. And once the United States makes up its mind to impose economic sanctions on New Han, the consequences, 2.9, are self-evident. So, sometimes when you see those countries in the Middle East spend a lot of money to buy weapons from the United States, it is not that they are stupid, nor that they are big complainers, but that they seek the protection of the United States by purchasing weapons while developing and promoting the economy. With the previous words, how could Richard not understand what Xiao Yunhai meant? Meaning, as long as your American weapons and equipment are not too high, I will buy them from you. If the price is too high, I can't convince the military. If the military insists on buying helicopters from the Bear, then it can't be blamed on me. I see the friendship of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. Don't worry, I will convey your words to the country. At that time, the military industry will send people to discuss this matter. As he said, Richard smiled, I believe that under the leadership of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, Han will definitely be more prosperous. He stood up, stretched out his hand and continued, it's getting late, so I won't bother His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. I will visit you another day when I have time. Are you leaving, Mr. Ambassador? I'll see you off. Xiao Yunhai said casually, then hugged Richard's shoulders and said, while walking and chatting, in fact, I really hope that the relationship between our two countries can be further strengthened. I am very optimistic about your country. I believe that under your leadership, the world will become more peaceful and democratic. A few minutes later, seeing the disappearing taillights, Xiao Yunhai's smile disappeared, and he changed his previous look of trying to please Richard, and his face became cold. Lin Na on the side was originally a little puzzled as to why Xiao Yunhai was so enthusiastic about Richard. Seeing this situation, she instantly understood what was going on. Your Highness, this is a disguise. To trick the Americans. Let them mistakenly believe that His Royal Highness the Crown Prince is on the side of the United States and is one of their own. Episode 59. Expand the army and speed up the pace of deployment. The United States. White House. So, they originally wanted to buy our warships. Just because Longwa's warships are really cheap, so they chose to purchase them? The then President Obama frowned and asked. Yes, Mr. President. According to our people, the Crown Prince of Xinhan is indeed inclined to us. Then why did he choose to cooperate with Longwa to exploit oil after he came to power? Obama asked. Our people also asked this question. One is that Longwa provided a $20 billion interest-free loan, and the other is that Longwa is willing to help them establish petrochemicals. He is willing to cooperate with Longwa. In addition, during this meeting, the Crown Prince of Xinhan also said that he is willing to cooperate with our country in oil, provided that he helps them establish petrochemicals. Obama shook his head. These matters are left to those oil companies to handle. Let's talk about military matters. Didn't you say that Xinhan wants to buy our fighter jets? Mr. President, it's helicopters. They want to buy Black Hawk helicopters. After a pause, the man seemed to have thought of something, and hurriedly said, however, according to the Crown Prince, the military of New Han is inclined to buy helicopters from the Russian Bear, believing that the Russian Bear helicopters are powerful and cheap. And the Crown Prince is inclined to buy our Black Hawk helicopters. However, the price is too high, and he can't convince the military. Let Sikorsky talk to them about the price issue. We can't let New Han buy helicopters from the Russian Bear, even if they are sold at a lower price. As the biggest enemy of the United States at present, killing the bear is the consensus of the upper and lower classes of the United States. As for Longwa, it will take a few years for the United States to realize that the threat of Longwa is far greater than that of the bear. At present, the United States has not realized the threat of Longwa. The main reason is that the economic gap is too large. Longwa's GDP of more than $400 million is more than 3 times that of the United States GDP of more than $1.4 billion, which is less than 30% of the total economic volume. 28 in terms of military, the gap is even greater. Therefore, it is not regarded as a big enemy by the United States. It was not until a few years later that Longwa's economy achieved leapfrog growth, with large-scale deployment of new weapons and equipment, and a series of cutting-edge high-tech weapons such as aircraft carriers and stealth fighters in service, and it was also upgrading its industry. This made the United States realize the threat of Longwa and began to suppress it vigorously. At present, the bear is still the primary target of the United States. Therefore, as long as the military orders related to the bear are, the United States wants to mess things up, so that the global arms market will be biased towards the United States. At the same time, it can also hit the military industry of the bear. Xinhan. Chang'an. The palace. After finishing his work, Xiao Yunhai thought that he hadn't looked at the system mall for a long time. He planned to see what fun things there were in the limited-time discount mall. Ha! As soon as he opened the discount mall, Xiao Yunhai's eyes lit up and he found something interesting. One giant oil and gas field resource card. After use, you can randomly produce an oil and gas field containing oil and natural gas, of which the oil reserves fluctuate between 10 to 100 billion tons, and the natural gas reserves fluctuate between 50 billion cubic meters and 10 trillion cubic meters. The original price is 1.5 billion points. With a limited time 10% discount, 150 million points. Top milk tea recipe. This recipe contains dozens of different types of recipes. The original price is 1 million points, with a limited time 10% discount, 100,000 points. Wow! Another resource card related to oil has appeared. Looking at the system mall, Xiao Yunhai was excited. No, this time it's an oil and gas field card. It not only contains oil, but also natural gas. Natural gas is a good thing. Like oil, it is one of the important sources. Looking at the oil and gas field resource card, Xiao Yunhai's excitement was no less than when he saw the oil resource card. I thought I would have to spend a lot of money to buy natural gas in the future. Now it seems that I don't need to. It just so happens that this time I paid $4 billion to buy weapons from Longwa, and the system has returned 4 billion points. Needless to say, I must buy it. 150 million points per card. First, let's get 20 zhang. Let's not talk about oil. Take natural gas, 20 cards, according to the lowest 50 billion cubic meters per card, 20 cards at least 1 trillion cubic meters. According to the current international natural gas price, it is $239 per thousand cubic meters. It can be worth $239 billion. This is still a small calculation. If you are lucky, 20 cards will open 10 trillion cubic meters, which means it has doubled 10 times and is worth more than 2 trillion US dollars. Now, Xinhan has really become a country with oil everywhere. Bought 20 oil and gas field cards. Spent 3 billion points, took a look at the milk tea recipe and thought about it. Xiao Yunhai still spent 100,000 points to buy it. Although he looked down on this thing. But this thing still has benefits. Set up a milk tea chain company and let the people join, so as to increase the employment rate of the people. Don't underestimate the milk tea shop. If it is well managed, the annual income is higher than that of some middle-level managers of large enterprises. It can not only help people make a living and increase their income, but also increase tax revenue and make money, killing two birds with one stone. Instead of waiting for the milk tea shops and Siamese tea shops in Longwood to come to Xinhan to make money, it is better to let the people of Xinhan make this money. Maybe in the future, like Starbucks, it will create a world-top milk tea brand. Besides, the stuff is only 100,000 points. There is no rush to use the oil and gas field resource card. 2 oil fields have been discovered now. If new oil and gas fields are discovered now, they will be huge oil and gas fields. Wouldn't this increase the determination of Java and the Philippines to fight? So, let's wait and see for a while. April 27th. Just when the outside world was still hotly discussing that Xinhan spent a huge amount of money to buy warships from Longwa, the conscription offices of provinces across the country issued a recruitment brochure for soldiers. Recruitment of new soldiers, age 18 years old or older, under 35 years old, gender, both men and women are welcome. Education, high school diploma or above, including high school. Recruitment targets, no vision problems, healthy, height above 1.65 meters, Chinese citizens, weight cannot exceed 30% of standard weight. Enlistment benefits, monthly salary of 1,200 yuan. Retirement benefits, enjoy a one-time state allowance of 50,000 yuan, and a local government subsidy of 1 yuan. After retirement, the local government provides employment guidance. At the same time, the state provides tax exemptions for retired soldiers engaged in self-employment. Different from countries such as Judea and South Korea, Xinhan did not adopt the system of universal military service. Instead, it chose the voluntary military service system in order to build up reserve forces. Every year, more than 10,000 new soldiers are recruited to serve for 2 years. Half of them are selected to join the formal army, that is, professional soldiers. Such soldiers usually serve for 10 years, 15 years, or more. And after retirement, it is not that no one cares about them. Instead, they are automatically transferred to the reserve force and participate in the 1-month military training organized by the reserve force every year, with salary and bonuses. And this military service system was also determined after the Cold War based on the changes in the world pattern. Before the Cold War, like Singapore and the Jewish state, a universal military service system was implemented. The news of recruiting soldiers quickly spread throughout the country under the publicity of the conscription offices in various provinces. It caused widespread heated discussions. With a monthly salary of 1,200 yuan, you can enjoy a 60,000 yuan allowance after retirement? Is it true? I remember it was only 800 yuan last year, and 30,000 yuan after retirement. Has it increased so much now? It must be true. It's all over the internet. Our local conscription office has posted advertisements everywhere. I've already signed up. Damn, you're so damn fast. I heard that the number of recruits this year has increased by 10,000 to 20,000. Really? It seems that the army is going to expand. I hope I can be selected and then be selected by the army to become a formal soldier. That would be great. The army is indeed going to expand. In my brother's class, more than 30% of the recruits were retained this year. In previous years, at most half of the recruits were retained. The army must be expanded, regardless of the current situation around us. I think expanding the army is good. I like being a soldier. Although the new Hanshi is a voluntary military service system, it is not so easy for ordinary people to sign up for the army. There is a lot of competition every year. Of course, the bigger competition is whether they can stay and become professional soldiers after serving 2 years of military service. The reason why they want to join the army is that the treatment of soldiers is good, which can basically reach the level of the middle class. Secondly, after they are transferred to the local area, they can do business and open their own shops, not companies, and enjoy tax incentives, and retired soldiers have priority in medical treatment. At the end of each year, a bonus will be issued to the account. Although this bonus is less than 100 Han Yuan, it is better than nothing, and the country can issue it, which means that they have not forgotten these soldiers who shed blood and sweat for the country. Therefore, there are many people who sign up for the army every year. Under such enthusiastic registration, the original plan was 1 month, but in 1 week, 20,000 new recruits were recruited in advance. Longhua, Guangdong Province. A naval base. Countless naval soldiers wearing the uniforms of the Xinhan Navy are standing in neat rows, waiting for orders. But everyone's eyes are excited to see the missile boats docked at the dock. If nothing unexpected happens, they will drive these missile boats back to Xinhan and join the Xinhan Navy in the future. At this time, several naval officers got off 2 jeeps. 2 types of military uniforms. Everyone stand at attention. Seeing several naval generals coming down, hundreds of Xinhan naval soldiers on the dock were neatly lined up in several queues. Report to the commander, I should have 120 officers and soldiers to receive the ship, and 120 actually arrived. Please give instructions, Commander. The naval commander in charge of receiving the ship in Xinhan returned a salute, then shouted arrest, and began to speak. Hello everyone, I am Xiao Ming, the person in charge of receiving the ship this time. In order to better complete the mission entrusted to us by the motherland, you will learn from the comrades of Longhua in the next 7 days how to drive and operate the missile boats behind you. I hope you can go all out and study hard, understand? Yes, Commander. More than 100 people shouted in unison, loud and clear. Xiao Ming then showed satisfaction and then talked about training issues with the generals of Longhua. Xinhan, Nanyang Province, Jiangning County. Your Highness, this is the plan to build an industrial park. The site has been leveled and construction can start at any time. Xiao Yunhai looked at the empty and leveled land in front of him, nodded, and then asked, have the compensations for demolition been paid? Your Highness, the compensation has been paid. The people living in this area are different. There are only 23 households in total. It belongs to the remote area. Yes. Xiao Yunhai nodded slightly. From the dense woods around the industrial park, it can be seen that there are not many people living around. Lin Na. Hearing the shout, Lin Na on the side stepped forward quickly, Your Highness? According to the previous plan, start to issue an announcement to the outside world and arrange construction as soon as possible. According to his plan, after the Yangha Park here is built, the battery factory and the automobile factory will be arranged here for production. In order to speed up the construction, it will realize 24-hour construction day and night to catch up with the progress. Yes. Let's go to the next place. After visiting the industrial park, Xiao Yunhai went straight to the next place. 20 minutes later, he arrived at Jian City located at the junction of Chang'an and Jiangning County, a small city with a daily population of only more than 70,000 people. It is only 17 or 18 minutes away from the center of Chang'an by car. It belongs to the capital, on the edge of the metropolitan area. However, due to its location advantage, it is still very prosperous. Came to a factory. Your Highness, this is an abandoned factory we acquired. It was used as a clothing factory before, but later the boss had a car accident, and his descendants did not know how to operate it, which led to bankruptcy, and the factory was also sold. Don't look at the small outside, it's still quite big inside, covering an area of more than 10 acres. Well. Xiao Yunhai walked into the factory and walked around carefully. The area is indeed not small. The facade is also relatively well preserved. Office buildings, factory workshops, factories, and raw materials are all available. Let's go here. Xiao Yunhai strolled around and felt that the location was not bad. It was quite suitable for being used as a production base for an agricultural gene company. As for the research site, it was naturally in the heavily guarded Military Research Institute. Okay, Your Highness. Go ahead. I'll stay here for a while. Xiao Yunhai waved his hand and signaled Lin Na to leave first. Lin Na looked at the bodyguards around and left with peace of mind. After Lin Na left, Xiao Yunhai did not hesitate to open the system. His current bodyguards have been replaced by people recruited by the system. According to the list given by the Institute of Biological Agriculture, Xiao Yunhai quickly purchased equipment. He also recruited 3 death warriors who were proficient in production, management, and marketing, and appointed Liang Bo, the death warrior in charge of marketing, as the general manager of Xinghai Agricultural Company. Then, he handed the formula of genetic agricultural agent, brought out from the institute to Liang Bo. This is a pesticide formula. Your company will produce this kind of pesticide that can provide agricultural output in the future. Test the production first. After it is effective, it will not be too late to mass produce it. Yes. Liang Bo took the recipe and handed it to his partner. Episode 60. Feiho wants to take action. Breast enhancement medicine is on the market. The time came to May 3rd. The U.S. Sikorsky Company sent people to negotiate the export of Black Hawk helicopters. The model to be exported was the UH-60M. This modified model, which has become the company's main export model, is an upgrade of the UH-60L and uses a new Y-cord composite rotor to improve performance. Especially in high-temperature and plateau environments, it reduces maintenance costs. The new rotor blades are developed from the Sikorsky S-92 civilian helicopter, but are shorter. The new digital cockpit reduces the pilot's workload, improves the crew's situational awareness, and provides new communication capabilities. There have also been many improvements in avionics, reducing many mechanical buttons and using more digital integrated equipment. The overall combat capability is much stronger than the UH-60L model. After the introduction, the two sides entered the price negotiation stage. Your Highness, if your country can purchase more than 12 aircraft at one time and purchase related parts, such as engines, our company can consider selling them to your country at a price of $42 million per aircraft. Hearing this, Xiao Yunhai shook his head. Mr. Brooke, your price is not sincere, so I won't bargain with you. Each aircraft is $36 million, equipped with related engines, navigation, global positioning system, anti-missile system, radar, etc. In addition, spare engines are $1.5 million each. If the company agrees to this price, then our country will purchase 24 aircraft and 60 engines. Since we are going to negotiate, we naturally have to find out in advance the price that the Americans sell to countries around the world. $36 million is higher than the price of the US allies, but lower than customers like Taiwan, Samba, and the Philippines. As for the additional purchase of 60 engines, they are also spare parts. Once there is a problem, they can be replaced, and the removed engines can also be used as spare parts. The main purpose is to prevent the inability to obtain parts in the future. This is a normal business operation. Basically, all purchases of fighter jets, helicopters, and warships will purchase some accessories for critical parts. Brooke naturally did not want to agree to the reduction of $7 million and the addition of many parts. Your Highness, the price of $35 million is really not possible. The profit is too low. The company will not agree. Hearing this, Xiao Yunhai stood up and said calmly, if that's the case, then there's no need to talk. I believe the Bear State will be happy to sell it to us at this price. See you out. After saying that, he walked away. Brooke was still a little confused. Why did he leave during the negotiation? Until Lin Na smiled and said, Mr. Brooke, please. Brooke, who reacted, hurriedly shouted to Xiao Yunhai, Your Highness, wait a moment. However, Xiao Yunhai did not stop. Seeing this, Brooke knew that it was impossible to sell it higher, and shouted helplessly, Your Highness, I agree to your price. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw Xiao Yunhai stopped. Xiao Yunhai walked back with a smile on his face. The price was agreed, and the rest of the things were much easier to handle. 30 minutes later, the two parties signed a formal contract. The Military Equipment Bureau of the Ministry of National Defense of Xinjiang purchased 24-60 million Mauritanian Ugias Black Hawk helicopters and 60 T-700 GE-701D engines, as well as related avionics and communication equipment from Sikorsky for a total price of $954 million. According to the agreement, Sikorsky needs to deliver the helicopters by the end of the year. That is, before December 31st. The Military Equipment Bureau still paid the $954 million from the government loan. There is no way. The military expenditure of 20 billion Han yuan, converted to $6.8 billion, is used to pay $4 billion for the purchase of warships, and more than $1 billion must be reserved to ensure the salaries of military personnel, combat training, etc., so there is no money. The loan will be repaid after the military expenditure is issued next year. At the national level, it is actually the left hand and the right hand. Soon, the news that the United States purchased 24 Black Hawk helicopters spread. It caused a lot of heated discussion in the military fan circle. The outside world did not pay much attention. May 9th. Located in the north of Chang'an City, near the naval base of Xiaoyuan. Strict security. Early in the morning, the entire base was on alert, and armed soldiers could be seen everywhere. Even the roads near the base were controlled. At 9:30 in the morning, 4 police cars led the way. Next came several Chevrolet SUVs with bulletproof plates, and then 3 Mercedes-Benz Maybachs and several bulletproof SUVs and police cars. At this time, inside the base, several senior generals in naval uniforms. Some had 2 gold stars, and some had 1 gold star. After seeing the convoy entering the base, they all stood up and looked at the convoy slowly approaching them with a serious face. A moment later, the convoy stopped in front of them. Wang Wenyuan, Deputy Commander of the Navy, and Gao Yuyan, Deputy Chief of Staff of the Navy, stepped forward and opened the car door. Your Majesty! Your Highness! The 2 people who got out of the car were none other than Xiao Yunhai and his father Hangwu. Sorry to have kept you waiting. Shaking hands, Xiao Hongjing said with a smile. Wang Wenyuan and others hurriedly said that they had not waited long and had just arrived. Looking at the dock, seeing that 10 new warships had been docked, Xiao Hongjing's eyes lit up, raised his hand and pointed, and asked with interest, "Is that the Guangwu missile boat you purchased?" The so-called Guangwu missile boat is the name of the new Han side. In Longhua, it is called the 022 missile boat. Yes, Your Majesty, this is the new missile boat we bought from Longhua. Let's go and take a look. Xiao Hongjing smiled and said, I've always heard from Yunhai that this missile boat has very powerful performance, comparable to ordinary frigates. I want to see how powerful it is. After that, Yin Buliexing walked towards the 10 Guangwu missile boats docked at the dock. The appearance is different from when he was in Longhua. It was originally painted white and blue, but now it has been painted in light gray, the paint color of the new Han Navy ships. The group boarded a missile boat. At this time, the 12 naval soldiers on the ship have lined up neatly. After seeing Xiao Hongjing, he hurriedly raised his hand to salute. Report to Your Majesty, the 1st Detachment of the South China Sea Fleet of the Navy, the captain of the 3rd ship of the 1st Missile Boat Brigade, Ding Mingfeng, led all the officers and soldiers of the ship to welcome your inspection. Looking at the 12 soldiers saluting in front of him, Xiao Hongjing saluted with a serious face, and then, in a gentle tone, he stretched out his hand and shook hands with everyone. How do you think of this warship? Your Majesty, this warship is highly integrated. Although it is small in tonnage, only 400 or 500 tons, its firepower is not inferior to those frigates at all, and even surpasses some light frigates. Ding Mingfeng said beside him. Really? Tell me, why do you think so? Okay, Your Majesty. Ding Mingfeng began to introduce the weapons and equipment of this missile boat, as well as the range of the missiles. He also emphasized that its maneuverability is very high. With the wolf pack tactics, it can achieve good results. The only disadvantage is that it can only be used in the nearshore area. If it is used in the open sea, it is not as good as the sea waves. It's good. Warships always have this or that kind of shortcomings. Moreover, it is a small ship of several hundred tons. It is already very good to have such a powerful firepower output. There is no need to have such high requirements. I think it's good. Xiao Yunhai interrupted, Dad, this new warship has arrived. I think we can hold a military exercise in the Sulu Sea after getting familiar with it for a while. What do you think? Xiao Hongjing heard his son mention the Sulu Sea. How could he not understand the meaning? It's nothing more than to deter the Philippines. After all, the Sulu Sea can be said to be the inland sea of Xinhan and the Philippines. The territories of the two countries have taken over the Sulu Sea. Xiao Hongjing nodded, it's time to practice. He turned around and shouted to Wang Wenyuan in front of him, Commander Wang. Your Majesty. Wang Wenyuan stepped forward. You heard me, Your Navy, come up with an exercise plan as soon as possible, and the location should be in the Sulu Sea. Remember, this time we will conduct live-fire target practice. I want to test whether the missiles are really as good as they say. Yes. Wang Wenyuan said in a loud voice. Please rest assured, Your Majesty, the Navy Command will come up with an exercise plan as soon as possible. Well. Xiao Hongjing nodded with satisfaction, turned around, looked at the multi-barrel machine gun in front of him, reached out and touched it, feeling the cold metal touch, and his eyes were full of satisfaction. With these 10 missile boats, it is equivalent to being able to launch 80 anti-ship missiles. The missile boats alone can make the Philippines drink a pot. In fact, the Philippines Navy is weak in the entire Southeast Asia. It is a kind of inexperienced, weak and playful stuff. In general, although it has 30,000 troops and more than 60 combat ships, most of them are patrol boats and torpedo boats under 1,000 tons. The main force is still 3 Sindhu-class frigates, with a displacement of only more than 700 tons and a ship age of up to 30 years. The largest flagship is the Raja Humabon frigate, which has a displacement of only 1,750 tons and is an old ship from the US during the World War II. After the World War II, it was handed over to the island country for a while, and then the regiment was returned to the Philippines. In terms of strength, it is not stronger than the new Han Navy. But the new Han, due to the constraints of Java and the occasional disturbances by Malaysia, it is impossible to use all of it to deal with Java. So many times, they try to keep things quiet and do not want to make things bigger. Now that there are 10 missile boats joining, the strength has greatly increased, and there is no need to show weakness. As long as the Philippines dares to make trouble, Xiao Yunhai thinks he doesn't mind sinking a few Philippine warships. Just when Xiao Yunhai and his son inspected the newly added missile boats of the Navy, the high-level officials of the Philippines were also in a meeting. The topic of discussion was New Han. Seeing that New Han has discovered oil resources one after another, and it is reported that the reserves are as high as billions of barrels, worth nearly $1 trillion. This makes the Filipinos who have always been promoting Sabah see an opportunity to make a fortune, that is, to seize Sabah, so that the oil is theirs. At that time, how to be greedy is not up to them and others. Even if they can get 1%, it is billions of dollars. Moreover, if Sabah can be taken back, they can become heroes of the country. The people have always hoped to recover Palawan Island and Sabah. Therefore, from the perspective of internal conditions, there is no obstacle to using force against Xiao Yunhai. Ladies and gentlemen, we have received news that the 10 missile boats purchased by Xiao Yunhai from Longwa have arrived at the military port of Chang'an. Gentlemen, we can't delay any longer. If we wait until the Xiao Yunhai Navy is familiar with these missile boats, it will be even more difficult to recover Palawan Island and Sabah in the future. I think we should strike first and attack their military ports while they are still unfamiliar with them and blow up their bases. A vice admiral with 2 gold stars on his shoulders spoke. His words immediately attracted rebuttals. Not appropriate. Going to war directly like this is equivalent to dragging us into the quagmire of war. Xiao Yunhai's military strength is not weak, and we may not have a chance of winning. Even if we defeat Xiao Yunhai, can you ensure that Malaysia and Java can watch us swallow Sabah? I think this possibility is very small. My suggestion is to take Palawan Island first, and by the way, we can also test the strength of Xiao Yunhai. The one who spoke was the Army Chief of Staff. I agree with General Barreto's suggestion. We should first use Palawan Island to test the waters, and then decide based on the response of New China. I agree. I agree too. Seeing that everyone agreed to attack New China, some people frowned and were not so optimistic. If you want to attack, I'm afraid it won't be that easy. Mr. President will not agree to go to war with New China. As soon as these words came out, the conference room immediately became much quieter. The then president of the Philippines was a woman, and she was also a pro-Dragon country faction, advocating peaceful development. Don't worry, he will step down in more than a month, and the new president will stand on our side and agree to attack New China, a general said. Everyone nodded. The new president's surname is Aquino. Although the family is of Chinese descent, they are notorious for being anti-Dragon country, Dino Zhao. Once they come to power, they will definitely stand on the side of their military. After some discussion, everyone decided to wait for more than a month, and by the way, they should also plan military operations carefully, and once a conflict breaks out, they may encounter problems. As for whether to seek support from the United States, there is no need for everyone, and the support of the United States is not so easy to get. Besides, it is not against Dragon country. And against Xinhan, the Americans may not stand on their side. After all, Xinhan is now an important oil-producing country. It is rumored that the United States has reached a petrochemical cooperation with Xinhan. So it is better not to look for the United States. In a blink of an eye, another half-months have passed. Jimin Pharmaceuticals' new drug, a drug that stimulates the secondary development of female breasts, has officially obtained the marketing license from Longwa, and the whitening lotion and acne and freckle cream have also obtained sales licenses. After obtaining the license, the joint venture company, Hanlong Pharmaceutical Company, began to find Water Army, advertise, and invest money to write soft marketing advertisements on internet media websites such as Weibo, and asked bloggers to post articles. So, you can see some beauty bloggers on Weibo. The main article promotes a drug called Fingzi C. Sisters, I recommend a magic drug to everyone, especially sisters with flat breasts, so you don't have to feel inferior anymore. A new drug has been launched in China, which is a special breast enhancement drug. It is absolutely real and effective. A sister from abroad told me that after taking it for half a month, her breast circumference has obviously increased a lot. I understand that this drug has been approved in our country recently. Ladies, if you think yours is not big enough, you can really try it. It is a miracle drug I have seen. I have already bought it for 3 yen. Similar marketing articles are all promoted in a self-narrative way. And it is emphasized that the company that produced this drug is the company that developed the weight loss drug before. As soon as this news came out, it attracted the attention of countless women. Especially those women with flat screens in airports, they searched for this drug even more.